You've been told silence is just emptiness, a void to be feared or avoided. But what if I told you that silence is far from empty? It's full of answers, insights, and clarity. You see, in a world filled with noise and constant distractions, we've lost touch with the power of quiet. But if silence truly were empty, why do we find peace in it? Why do so many people experience breakthroughs in those still moments when the world quiets down and the mind finds rest? The truth is, silence is not something to fill with noise. It's something to embrace, to listen to, and through it to uncover deep wisdom. Buddhism teaches us that in silence we find the answers we've been searching for all along. It's not about chasing something outside ourselves. It's about connecting with the stillness within. The greatest teachings in Buddhism don't come through words. They come in the silence between them, in the pause, the breath, the space where truth reveals itself. Tonight, as you listen, something will shift. Your mind will slow down, the noise will fade away, and you'll begin to see that in silence, clarity arises. You'll feel a sense of calm like you've never known before, a peace that's always been waiting for you to discover. And when you wake up tomorrow, you'll view the world through new eyes, more present, more aware, more at ease. This isn't just another lesson on silence. This is an invitation to step into the quiet, to hear the wisdom that's been there all along, waiting for you. Ready to listen? Let's begin. You may have been caught in a storm of thoughts, constantly battling against the noise in your mind. Every moment feels filled with mental clutter, racing from one idea to the next, leaving little room for anything else. Yet, somewhere within that chaos, there is a quiet space, a gap where all the noise fades away. In that brief pause, when everything seems still, something powerful begins to emerge. This space between thoughts is more than just a brief lull. It's a realm of insight and clarity, where the answers you seek reveal themselves without effort, without force. When we think of silence, we often imagine the absence of sound. But in the world of our minds, silence isn't about a lack of thought. It's the absence of mental noise, the space between thoughts where true understanding lies. This space is where you find a deep clarity that can't be found in constant thinking. Here, you are not being pushed by the pressure of doing, but rather invited into being. And in this being, the answers appear naturally, without striving. This is the power of silence in the space between thoughts. It's where the mind isn't rushing to find meaning or create meaning. It simply is. It's a place of pure potential, untouched by the clutter of daily life, where the true nature of things is revealed. This space exists beyond the mental chatter, and it is here that you can truly begin to understand yourself and the world around you. The power of this silent space doesn't come from trying to figure it all out. It comes from letting go, from stepping away from the need to control your mind and allowing this sacred gap to open. Every time you pause and let your mind settle, this silent realm becomes more accessible. It's a place that requires no effort to find, and yet we overlook it so often. Our constant thinking blinds us to its existence, causing us to miss out on the answers waiting patiently in the quiet. But when we step into this space, when we stop the constant stream of thought and just listen to the silence, It offers a clarity that words cannot describe. There is no mental clutter, no distractions, just pure awareness, where you can receive the wisdom that has always been there, waiting for you to notice. The true beauty of this silence is that it doesn't demand anything from you. It doesn't require you to be someone you're not, nor does it judge you for your struggles. It simply offers itself, a place where you can connect with your true essence, a place where clarity and insight flow naturally. In the space between thoughts, you are free from expectations, free from the pressure of getting everything right. You are simply allowed to be. And in this being, the answers to the questions you carry in your heart emerge naturally. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to think harder or try to understand more deeply. You only need to create space. In this space, where your thoughts fall silent, everything becomes clearer. Your worries lose their grip, your confusion fades away, and the solutions that once seemed out of reach suddenly become obvious. This silent realm between thoughts is not a passive place, but a fertile ground for wisdom. It's here that your mind can shed its layers of complexity, letting go of all the distractions that pull you in every direction. When you embrace this space, the clutter clears, and you see things as they truly are. There is no need for analysis, no need for mental gymnastics. Everything falls into place when you simply allow silence to guide you. When your mind is quiet, you are not merely free from noise, you are open to deeper understanding. The space between thoughts is a gateway to wisdom, offering you insights that transcend ordinary thought. It's a space where your mind is not trapped in the loop of endless thinking, but is instead at peace, fully receptive to the present moment. In this state of peace, the answers you've been searching for find their way to you. They don't come with force or effort. They come with ease, because in the stillness, you are aligned with the flow of life, with the natural rhythm of existence. This hidden realm of insight doesn't demand your attention in the way that your thoughts do. It doesn't try to grab your focus or hold you captive. It simply exists, waiting for you to become aware of it. The more you step into this space, the more it opens up to you. The answers that were once hidden in the noise of your mind become clear and obvious. They were always there, but you could not see them until the silence allowed you to. The beauty of this is that the silence is always there, waiting for you to discover it. The more you make time for quiet, the more you will experience this space between thoughts. It's a place where your mind can finally relax, where you can let go of your worries and stop trying so hard to understand everything. When you stop pushing, stop striving, you allow this hidden realm to reveal itself. It's in this moment of surrender that you truly begin to receive what you've been searching for. We live in a world that prizes constant activity, constant thought, and constant movement. But in this rush, we often miss the profound clarity that can only be found in stillness. It's easy to overlook the power of silence, but it is precisely in these moments of quiet that we discover who we truly are and what we truly need. In the silence between your thoughts, you can hear the wisdom that is always there, waiting for you to listen. It's not loud, it's not demanding, but it's always there, offering answers, offering peace, offering clarity. Every time you stop to pause, to allow your mind to rest, you are stepping into this hidden realm of insight. It's not about finding answers in a hurry, but about being present, about allowing yourself to listen to the space between your thoughts. The more you make room for this silence, the more you will experience the clarity and wisdom it brings. It's not about searching or striving. It's about being still and allowing yourself to be open to what's already within you. You don't have to go anywhere to find it. The silence is not something to seek outside of yourself. It's already inside you, in the space between your thoughts, in the pause between each breath. All you have to do is become aware of it. When you do, you'll begin to realize that the answers to your deepest questions were always there, waiting in the silence. It's here, in the stillness, that you will find the clarity you've been longing for, the peace that has always been available to you, and the wisdom that will guide you forward. The silence between thoughts is not an empty space. It is a rich field of potential, a place where the answers you need can finally emerge, free from the noise and distraction that often clouds your mind. When you step into this space, you step into a world of clarity, a world where everything makes sense and the truth becomes obvious. There's no need for effort, no need for struggle, just silence. And in that silence, all the wisdom you need is revealed. It is in this space that the world around you comes into focus. Without the constant mental chatter, you can see things as they truly are, without the filters of judgment, anxiety, or desire. The silence allows you to connect deeply with the present moment, to experience life as it truly is, without the distortions that our thoughts often create. In the pause, you find the clarity that eludes you in the noise. When you embrace the space between your thoughts, you are embracing the fullness of the present moment. It's here, in the silence, that you begin to understand that the answers you seek are not far away. They are already within you. All it takes is the willingness to step into the silence, to stop chasing after answers, and to simply let go. When you do, you will find that the answers have always been there, waiting for you to listen. This space, this silent realm between thoughts, is a gateway to clarity, peace, and wisdom. It's a place where you can finally step out of the noise of your mind and into the stillness where everything becomes clear. In this space, there is no struggle, no effort, just the quiet unfolding of truth. And it is in this truth that you will find the answers you've been seeking all along. In the silence that we often overlook, there is a deep truth that waits for us. It's not in the loud, forceful declarations, but in the quiet pauses, the spaces between words, where wisdom speaks the clearest. Buddha's teachings are a perfect example of this. It's in the gaps, the unsaid parts of his teachings, where the real truth is hidden. Buddha's voice is not just found in his spoken words, but in the silence that surrounds them, in the moments where there are no words at all. These silences carry the weight of wisdom that only the attentive and open mind can hear. As we step forward into understanding Buddha's teachings, we come to realize that true wisdom doesn't come from intellectualizing or overthinking. It is not a matter of passing words or seeking to understand in the traditional sense. Instead, it comes from being still, from listening not just with our ears, but with our hearts and minds. Silence, in this context, is not a lack of communication. It is the essence of it. It speaks in ways that words simply cannot, offering insights that transcend any spoken language. Buddha's silence is a profound invitation to see the world as it truly is, without the filters of our biases, expectations, or mental clutter. This silence, often misunderstood, is the real message he imparted. It's an invitation to step away from the noise of the world and into a deeper, more subtle awareness. In his quiet moments, Buddha didn't just teach through what he said. He taught through his presence, through the spaces he created, where nothing needed to be said for understanding to arise. When Buddha sat in meditation, when he lived his life, he wasn't just talking to people. He was showing them a way of being. His silence spoke volumes, revealing more about the nature of existence than any speech could. His calmness, his stillness, his ability to simply be, that was the true teaching. It wasn't about asking questions and seeking answers in the traditional sense. Instead, it was about embodying a state of being where the answers emerge from the stillness itself. When we engage with his teachings, we often focus on the words, on the lessons given through his parables and direct teachings. But these words are only a small part of the message. The deeper truth is often found in the silence that follows these words, in the absence of mental noise, in the space between thoughts. We find the teachings Buddha was truly imparting. He was not just providing us with ideas to think about. He was showing us how to let go of the need to think and simply experience life as it is. The silent teaching that Buddha offers is one of presence. It's about being so attuned to the present moment that you can feel the world around you without needing to overanalyze it. It's about hearing the message in the pause, when nothing is being said but everything is understood. Buddha's teachings transcend the need for complex explanations because they are not meant to be understood in the conventional sense. They are meant to be experienced. In Buddhism, this silence becomes a form of communication in itself. It's a way of transmitting wisdom that doesn't rely on the limitations of language. Language can never truly capture the depth of reality because reality exists beyond words. But silence, on the other hand, is open-ended. It leaves space for the mind to settle, to rest in the present, and in this rest, truth emerges effortlessly. Buddha didn't need to fill every moment with words, because the silence itself was enough to convey his message. This approach can be challenging in a world where we are conditioned to constantly seek answers, to fill every moment with words, and to grasp at knowledge. We are taught that we must always be doing, always thinking, and always searching for something more. But Buddha shows us that in silence there is no need to search. There is no need to look outside ourselves for answers. All the answers we need are already inside us, hidden in the stillness of our being. The power of silence, as taught by Buddha, comes from its ability to clear away the mental clutter and allow the true nature of things to emerge. The mind, when filled with too many thoughts, cannot see clearly. But in the stillness, when thoughts settle, what remains is clarity. In the absence of noise, the mind becomes open, receptive, and fully aware of what is. This is when the true teachings of Buddha begin to unfold, not through the intellectual processing of information, but through the quiet recognition of what already is. Buddha's silence, in this way, serves as a mirror. It reflects the state of our own minds, inviting us to look deeply at what is within. It's not about asking questions to find answers. It's about being present enough to allow the answers to reveal themselves naturally. We don't need to search for wisdom outside of ourselves, because in silence, we are reminded that we are already connected to it. This is one of the core teachings of Buddhism, that enlightenment isn't something we achieve by adding something new to our lives, but by removing the distractions and allowing the truth that has always been there to emerge. When we take the time to listen to the silence, we begin to hear the unspoken wisdom that Buddha has left for us. This wisdom is not something to be understood with the mind. It is something to be felt with the heart. It's in the moments of stillness, when we stop trying to figure everything out, that we can begin to see the world in a completely new light. The noise that fills our minds, the distractions that pull us away from the present, are the very things that keep us from seeing the truth. But in the silence, we find clarity. In the stillness, we find peace. Buddha's teachings, therefore, are not just something to read or memorize. They are something to live, something to embody. They are an invitation to let go of the constant striving and simply be. In silence, we find the space to stop seeking, to stop trying to understand, and to simply rest in the present moment. This is where true wisdom lives, not in the mental noise, but in the quiet of our being. As we deepen our practice and become more attuned to this silence, we begin to understand that Buddha's teachings were never just about philosophy or ideas. They were about living a life of peace, of presence, and of clarity. By listening to the silence, we learn to hear the deeper truths of our existence. We learn to stop seeking answers and to start recognizing the answers that have always been present within us. Buddha's silence is an invitation to come home to ourselves, to return to the peace and clarity that reside in the present moment, free from the distractions of the mind. In this way, silence becomes not just a form of communication, but a path to awakening. It is the space in which true understanding arises, not from words, but from the deep silence that is ever present, ever ready to guide us toward clarity. Buddha's teachings invite us to enter this space, to listen to the silent wisdom that transcends words, and to find the truth that has always been within us. By listening to the unspoken, we come to know ourselves more deeply, and in that knowing, we find the peace and clarity we have been seeking all along. This is the beauty of Buddha's silence. It speaks louder than any words could. It offers us a wisdom that is beyond the reach of the intellect, a wisdom that can only be heard when we stop trying to understand and simply listen. It is in this listening, this deep presence, that we find the true essence of his teachings. And in this silence, we discover that the answers we seek have been there all along, waiting for us to stop, to listen, and to understand. After exploring the silence that Buddha embodies in his teachings, the next step is to confront the restless mind. We all know that feeling of mental chatter, constant, overwhelming, relentless. It's as if the mind never stops, bombarding us with thoughts, worries, doubts, and distractions. But there's a quiet solution, a way to still this chaos and regain a sense of control. Silence, far from being passive or empty, becomes the very tool we need to calm the storm inside our heads. This restlessness we experience is often a product of our minds constantly racing from one thought to the next, rarely giving us a moment of peace. It's easy to believe that we need to fight or solve this never-ending stream of thoughts, but silence teaches us a far more profound lesson. It shows us that the answer lies not in silencing the thoughts forcefully, but in creating space for the mind to simply rest. In silence, the mind finds its own rhythm, and that rhythm is far more harmonious than the chaotic noise we often think we need to deal with. The restlessness isn't something to eliminate, but something to understand, and silence is the perfect environment for this understanding to unfold. The constant noise in our minds can feel like an ongoing battle. Thoughts fight for attention, emotions clash with logic, and in the end, we're left feeling drained, confused, and scattered. We think we need more information, more stimulation, or more distractions to calm ourselves, but what we need instead is a return to stillness. Silence doesn't demand anything from us. It simply offers a refuge, a place where thoughts can come and go without clinging to them, where we don't have to react to every passing sensation or idea. It is in this silence that clarity emerges, not through action, but through inaction. The mind, when allowed to rest, naturally quiets itself, and in that quiet, the true nature of our thoughts, our emotions, and our experiences can be seen clearly. Many people spend their entire lives fighting their mental restlessness, believing that the solution lies in keeping the mind busy. We overload ourselves with tasks, distractions, and noise, hoping that something will eventually quiet the storm within. But all this activity only deepens the restlessness. Silence, on the other hand, cuts through all of that. It's not about doing nothing, it's about creating space for the mind to find peace on its own. When we stop adding more fuel to the fire begins to burn itself out. Silence provides that space, a gap where the mind can exhale, relax, and just be. Mental restlessness is a result of the mind's constant need to control, to judge, and to label everything that it encounters. We try to control our thoughts, we try to control our emotions, and we even try to control the world around us. But silence gives us a chance to step out of that cycle. Instead of fighting the restlessness, we allow it to be. This act of acceptance is not passive. It's a conscious choice to let go. In silence, we create the conditions for the mind to return to its natural state of peace. It's in this stillness that we find the clarity that was always there, but which was drowned out by the noise of our constant thinking. When we embrace silence, the incessant chatter of the mind begins to lose its grip. Thoughts still come, but they no longer dominate us. They float by like clouds in the sky without causing a storm inside. We begin to realize that we don't have to identify with every thought that arises. Silence teaches us that thoughts are not who we are. They are simply passing phenomena. And when we stop engaging with them so intensely, we experience a kind of mental freedom. Silence allows us to simply witness our thoughts without judgment, and in doing so, we free ourselves from their control. The deeper we move into silence, the more we understand the root of our mental restlessness. It's not the thoughts themselves that are the problem, but our attachment to them. We are constantly trying to grasp at our thoughts, trying to hold on to them, trying to force meaning and understanding from them. Silence, however, teaches us the power of letting go. When we let go of our need to control, when we allow the mind to rest, we find a peace that is beyond thought. This is the essence of Buddhist practice, a return to the simplicity of being without the constant effort of doing. In silence, we reconnect with our true selves without the need for mental noise. As we become more familiar with silence, we begin to notice how much of our mental energy is wasted on unnecessary thinking. We replay old conversations, worry about the future, or dwell on past mistakes. This mental noise serves no purpose except to keep us distracted. Silence, on the other hand, brings us back to the present moment, where we are free from the burdens of the past and the anxieties of the future. In the quiet of the present, we find the clarity we've been seeking all along. It's in this stillness that we realize the restlessness we feel is not a problem to be solved, but a signal that we've been too busy chasing after thoughts and have forgotten how to simply be. The beauty of silence is that it doesn't ask for anything from us. It doesn't demand that we achieve, think, or do. It simply offers a space for us to exist as we are. And in that space, the mind finds its natural rhythm. We don't need to force ourselves into peace. We just need to step back and allow the mind to find its own balance. Silence is not something we need to fight for. It is already within us, waiting to be uncovered. The more we create room for silence, the more we experience the deep peace that lies at the core of our being. As we continue to practice silence, we realize that the mind's restlessness is not an enemy to be defeated, but a condition to be understood. It is a sign that we have become disconnected from our true nature. By returning to silence, we reconnect with that nature and allow the mind to settle into a place of peace. This is where true clarity arises, not from thinking harder, but from letting go of the need to think at all. When we stop engaging with the restlessness, we allow it to pass. And in its wake, we find a deep sense of calm that was always there, beneath the surface of our thoughts. The power of silence lies in its ability to give us distance from our thoughts, to provide a space where we can observe them without getting caught up in them. This distance allows us to see our thoughts clearly for what they are, temporary, fleeting, and ultimately unimportant. When we stop clinging to them, we find that they lose their power over us. Silence doesn't eliminate the thoughts, but it changes our relationship with them. We no longer see them as truths that we must act on, but as passing moments that we can simply let go of. The mind's restlessness is not something that needs to be fixed or cured. It's simply a sign that we have forgotten how to be still. Silence offers us the remedy, not by fighting against the mind, but by creating the space for the mind to find its own peace. This practice doesn't require us to do anything special or extraordinary. All we need to do is stop. Stop trying to control, stop trying to understand, and simply allow the mind to settle into silence. In that silence, we find the clarity we've been seeking. And with that clarity, the restlessness fades and peace takes its place. In the end, the solution to our mental restlessness is not more thinking, more distractions, or more answers. It is silence. Silence doesn't provide us with immediate answers to every problem, but it gives us the space to stop searching and simply listen. And in that listening, The answers begin to emerge, not from the mind, but from the deeper silence within. This silence is not empty. It is full of understanding, full of peace, and full of the clarity we need to navigate the challenges of life with calm and presence. The restless mind, despite its constant churn, is not the space where deep understanding is found. We've seen how silence can still the noise, but there's a deeper level of awakening that unfolds when we learn to embrace the stillness through meditation. Here, silence becomes a doorway, a gateway to a clarity and wisdom that our busy minds are too distracted to notice. Meditation isn't just about sitting in silence. It's about creating the conditions for that silence to reveal the truth of who we are, of what is real, and of what we need to understand in order to find peace. The journey through silence begins in the quiet moments of meditation. In these moments, there's no rush, no need to act or react, just a space to be. The mind, so accustomed to grasping at thoughts and external distractions, slowly begins to settle. As it does, the noise recedes and the answers that we've been seeking become clear. They don't arrive with loud revelations or grand epiphanies. Instead, they emerge softly in the gaps between the breaths, in the stillness between thoughts. It's in this space where nothing demands your attention that the true nature of existence begins to reveal itself. Meditation acts as a mirror, not of what we think we are, but of what we truly are when we strip away all the distractions. When we sit in silence, the mind has the opportunity to stop racing, to stop trying to fix, analyze, or achieve. And in that pause, the layers of stress, confusion, and expectation slowly start to peel away. What remains is not an empty, quiet mind, but a clear, open awareness, a direct experience of life as it is, without the filters of our judgments or preconceptions. This shift isn't something that happens all at once. It requires time, patience, and a willingness to sit with discomfort. But in the practice of meditation, silence becomes a teacher. It doesn't force anything upon us, but instead invites us to let go, to surrender to the present moment, and to witness life without interference. As the mind quiets, we begin to see things differently. We notice the subtle things we had overlooked in the noise of everyday life: our breath, the sensations in our body, the space around us. The more we let go of the constant desire to control our thoughts, the more clearly we can perceive reality as it is. The real power of silence in meditation is that it reveals what the busy mind often misses. In the silence, we discover that we have been holding on to illusions, chasing after fleeting distractions that we believe will bring us happiness or fulfillment. But when we stop, when we create the space to be still, we realize that all the answers we've been searching for were never outside of us. They were already within, waiting to be discovered. In meditation, silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's the presence of awareness. The kind of awareness that allows us to see beyond the surface of our thoughts and into the depth of who we really are. Meditation doesn't demand that we have any specific thoughts or experiences. It simply offers a space for whatever arises to come and go freely. In this space, we learn not to cling to our thoughts, our desires, or our fears. We observe them without judgment, without attachment, and as we continue to meditate, we begin to notice that these thoughts don't define us. They are simply passing phenomena, like clouds drifting through the sky. The more we rest in this space of non-attachment, the more we find peace. The shift from the busy, restless mind to the still, aware mind is subtle but profound. It is not about achieving some extraordinary state of being, but about returning to our natural state, an awareness that is always present, always available, but often obscured by the noise of our thoughts. Through meditation, we clear away the clutter and rediscover this inherent clarity. It's not something we have to attain. It's something we uncover by letting go. As we deepen our practice, we realize that meditation is not a process of doing, it's a process of being. It's not about trying to control the mind, but about allowing the mind to come to rest on its own. The stillness in meditation doesn't force answers upon us. It simply provides the space for answers to emerge naturally. In this space, we begin to understand that everything we need is already within us. There's nothing to fix, nothing to change, only a realization that all the answers we've been searching for are already present. In the silence of meditation, we also begin to see how our mind has been conditioned by years of habitual thinking. We realize how much of our experience is shaped by past experiences, cultural conditioning, and the stories we've been telling ourselves. Meditation allows us to see these patterns clearly, to understand how they influence our thoughts and behaviors. But instead of trying to change or fight these patterns, meditation invites us to witness them with compassion and understanding. In doing so, we break free from the grip of these old patterns and create space for new ways of thinking and being. The stillness of meditation doesn't just reveal answers, it also reveals the nature of the mind itself. As we sit in silence, we begin to understand that our mind is not a fixed entity. It is fluid, constantly changing, and often influenced by external factors. Through meditation, we develop the ability to observe these changes without getting caught up in them. We learn to detach from the constant fluctuations of the mind and to rest in the space of pure awareness. This awareness is not bound by thoughts or emotions. It is a timeless, formless presence that is always available, regardless of what is happening in the mind. Meditation also provides the opportunity to explore the relationship between the mind and the body. As we sit in stillness, we begin to notice the sensations in our body, the tension, the discomfort, and the relaxation. These physical sensations are often closely tied to our thoughts and emotions. Through meditation, we can develop a deeper awareness of how the body responds to the mind, and vice versa. This awareness allows us to release tension, to relax, and to become more attuned to the present moment. In this way, meditation not only stills the mind, but also helps us reconnect with our bodies, bringing us back to a sense of wholeness. The power of meditation lies not in the thoughts we have during the practice, but in the space between them. It is in this space of silence that we find the true essence of meditation. This essence is not about achieving a particular state or experience. It is about simply being present with whatever arises. When we let go of expectations and judgments, the silence becomes a mirror that reflects the truth of who we are. It is in this silence that we come to realize that we are not our thoughts, our emotions, or our experiences. We are the awareness that observes them, the stillness that underlies them. As we continue to meditate, we deepen our connection to this silence. We realize that silence is not an absence of activity, but a space full of potential, full of insight. In this space, we can tap into a wisdom that goes beyond the mind's limited understanding. The more we meditate, the more we learn to trust this silence, to trust the stillness, and to allow it to guide us toward a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. In the end, the true power of meditation lies in its ability to reveal the clarity and wisdom that are always available, but often hidden by the noise of our minds. It is through silence, through stillness, that we awaken to the truth of our being. And in that awakening, we find the answers we've been searching for all along, not outside of ourselves, but within. The practice of meditation teaches us that silence is not a void to be feared, but a doorway to the most profound understanding. Through silence, we awaken to the reality of who we truly are, and in that awakening, we find peace. As we journey deeper into the practice of silence, we begin to realize that not all wisdom can be conveyed through words. In fact, some of the most profound teachings in Buddhism are delivered without uttering a single syllable. These teachings transcend language altogether, offering insights that cannot be fully captured or understood through verbal explanation. It's in this space, in the unspoken moments, that we encounter wisdom in its purest form. Here, silence becomes the ultimate language, one that speaks directly to the heart and mind without the limitations of words. This form of wisdom is present in many non-verbal Buddhist teachings, where silence holds the key to understanding. Take Zen koans, for instance. These short, paradoxical statements or questions have no direct answers and are not meant to be solved in the traditional sense. They are not puzzles that can be cracked with logical thinking. Instead, they push the mind to break free from its usual patterns of reasoning and to experience reality directly. The power of a Zen koan lies in its ability to guide you to a deeper awareness where words fail and the answer emerges from within. A Zen master may present a koan to a student not with the expectation of a verbal answer, but with the hope that the student will experience the truth for themselves in the silence between the words. The essence of the koan isn't the literal meaning, but the space it creates in the mind, a space that encourages deep contemplation and, eventually, insight. This practice doesn't rely on rational thinking. Instead, it invites the student into a state of being where understanding is felt, not spoken. It's the silence that surrounds the koan that carries the true message, a message that can only be understood when the mind is no longer cluttered with the need to find a definitive answer. The power of silence in Buddhist teachings lies in its ability to break down the intellectual barriers we've built around ourselves. Words are often limiting. They categorize, label, and define. But silence, in its purest form, cannot be confined. It opens us up to a deeper experience, one that goes beyond our usual ways of thinking and knowing. It forces us to let go of our reliance on logic and to trust in the wisdom that comes from direct experience. When we allow silence to guide us, we are free to embrace the unknown, to step outside the confines of conceptual thought, and to access a deeper layer of understanding. In Buddhism, Silence is often used as a tool for personal transformation. A Zen master might remain silent during a teaching session, simply allowing the student to sit with their thoughts and feelings, offering no verbal instruction. This silence acts as a mirror, reflecting the student's internal world and providing space for them to process their own realizations. It's in these moments of quiet reflection that the most profound insights arise. The mind, in its usual state of constant chatter, is unable to grasp the true nature of things. But when we quiet the mind, when we stop searching for answers in the external world, we allow the wisdom that lies within to surface. One of the most powerful aspects of non-verbal Buddhist teachings is their ability to bypass the intellect and speak directly to the subconscious mind. Words can only communicate so much, but silence communicates on a much deeper level. It speaks to us beyond language, bypassing the filters of the ego and the mental patterns that shape our perceptions. In silence, we are able to connect with the underlying truths of existence, truths that cannot be expressed in words, but that we can feel and experience in the stillness of the present moment. The process of understanding through silence can be seen in the practice of meditation. In a traditional meditation session, there is little or no verbal guidance. Instead, the practitioner is encouraged to sit in silence and observe the mind, letting thoughts come and go without attachment. In this silence, insights arise naturally. The practice isn't about forcing the mind into stillness, but about allowing the mind to settle into its natural state of awareness. As the mind quiets, the practitioner begins to perceive a deeper reality, one that is not bound by words or concepts, but one that is direct, raw, and unfiltered. This is the wisdom that arises in silence, the ability to see things as they truly are, without the distortions of the mind's endless chatter. Silence, in this sense, is not just the absence of sound. It is a powerful tool for awakening. It provides the space necessary for us to drop the mental filters that prevent us from experiencing the world directly. By cultivating this inner silence, we begin to understand that the answers to our deepest questions are not found in external sources, but in the stillness within. When we are no longer distracted by the noise of the world, we are able to tune into a deeper frequency of understanding, one that is not limited by words, but is expansive and boundless. As we look deeper into the role of silence in Buddhist teachings, we realize that it is not merely an absence, but a presence. Silence holds the potential to open us up to the mysteries of life. It is in silence that we begin to understand the impermanence of all things, the interdependence of all beings, and the nature of our own existence. These truths cannot be fully expressed through language, but they can be felt in the silence. The more we sit in silence, the more we begin to connect with the profound teachings that have been passed down through generations of Buddhist masters. In some Zen practices, the teacher may simply sit in silence with the student, offering no words of instruction. This silence is itself a form of teaching, allowing the student to enter into direct experience without the need for explanation. The teacher's silence becomes a mirror, reflecting the student's own inner world. In this space, the student is encouraged to explore their own thoughts and feelings, to confront their own limitations, and to experience the truth for themselves. This process of self-discovery is not intellectual. it is experiential. The answers come not from external sources, but from within, and they emerge in the silence. Non-verbal teachings like Zen koans and silent meditation invite us to explore a deeper level of understanding, one that is beyond words. In these teachings, silence becomes the vehicle for awakening, offering us a chance to break free from the confines of our habitual thinking and to experience reality as it truly is. Words, while useful, are limited in their ability to convey the fullness of truth. But silence, silent teachings, silent reflections, offers us a direct path to wisdom, a path that is not clouded by the distractions of the mind. In Buddhism, silence is not just the absence of sound, but a powerful force that can awaken us to the deeper truths of life. It is in this silence that we find the answers that words cannot express. Silence allows us to experience life fully, without the need to define or categorize. It opens us up to the present moment, to the truth of our existence, and to the wisdom that lies beyond the limitations of the mind. The wisdom of silence is not something that can be grasped through thinking or reasoning. It is something that can only be felt, experienced, and understood when we allow ourselves to step out of the world of words and into the world of direct experience. Silence is not empty. It is full of wisdom, full of truth, full of the answers we have been searching for. By embracing the silence, by learning to listen to the unspoken, we open ourselves to a deeper understanding, one that transcends the limitations of language and brings us closer to the essence of who we are. As we continue to explore the depth of silence, we begin to realize that it is not merely an absence of sound, but a space rich with meaning, offering profound insights into who we truly are. Silence does not just calm the mind, it holds a mirror to our very essence, revealing truths about our identity, our purpose, and our connection to the world around us. In this stillness, we are not lost in the noise of our thoughts or the distractions of daily life. Instead, we are able to connect to something deeper, something that transcends our individual experiences. It is in silence that we come face to face with the core of our being, and it is here that the true nature of existence is revealed. Silence, often misunderstood as emptiness, holds within it the fullness of life. It is in these quiet moments that we are able to witness our most authentic selves. When the constant chatter of our minds quiets down, we can begin to hear the subtle whispers of truths that we have often overlooked in the noise of our busy lives. These truths are not learned through effort or striving. They emerge naturally in the stillness, like the gentle unfolding of a flower. It is in this space that we encounter the clarity of our true nature, free from the conditioning and distractions that have shaped us for so long. In silence, we begin to unravel the layers that we have built around our sense of self. These layers, our thoughts, our fears, our desires, have created a false sense of identity, one that is separate from the world around us. But when we sit in silence, we can begin to see that this sense of separation is just an illusion. We are not isolated beings, disconnected from everything else. Instead, we are deeply intertwined with all of life. The more we sit with silence, the more we come to realize that our true identity is not defined by our individual thoughts or experiences, but by our connection to the whole of existence. The true nature of silence is that it dissolves the barriers we have created between ourselves and the world. It breaks down the walls of ego, revealing the interconnectedness of all things. As we sit in silence, we are reminded that we are not separate from nature, from others, or from the universe. We are part of a vast web of existence, and our actions, thoughts, and feelings ripple through this web in ways that we may not fully understand. Silence, in its profound simplicity, brings us back to this truth, offering a deeper understanding of our place in the world. It is often said that silence speaks louder than words. This is especially true when it comes to understanding our own true nature. Words are limited. They can only describe things from the perspective of the mind. But silence transcends the mind. It takes us beyond our conditioned thinking and invites us to experience the world as it truly is. In silence, we are not bound by labels or concepts. We are free to experience the fullness of life in its raw, unfiltered form. It is here that we can uncover the depths of our being, our purpose, our true desires, and our innate wisdom. As we delve deeper into silence, we also begin to see the profound interconnectedness of all life. We are not isolated beings. We are part of a larger, interconnected whole. Silence reveals this connection in a way that words cannot. It is in the quiet moments that we begin to understand that every thought, every action, every feeling is interconnected with the rest of the world. We are not separate from others or from the environment around us. We are all part of the same living, breathing system. In this understanding, we find a sense of peace and belonging that transcends the egoic mind's need for separation and distinction. The journey through silence is also a journey of self-discovery. When we remove the noise and distractions that cloud our perception, we are left with the clarity to see ourselves as we truly are. Silence allows us to shed the masks we wear, the roles we play, and the identities we have constructed. In the quiet, we are confronted with our true selves, without the judgments, expectations, or limitations imposed by the outside world. It is in this unadorned space that we can connect with our authentic being, free from the false constructs that we have spent our lives identifying with. As silence brings us closer to our true nature, it also helps us uncover our purpose in life. We often spend our days searching for meaning outside of ourselves, chasing after external goals and achievements. But in the stillness of silence, we begin to realize that our true purpose is not something that can be found in the external world. It is something that emerges from within. It is not a destination to be reached, but a path to be followed. Silence provides the space for us to listen to the inner voice that guides us toward our true calling, helping us to discern what is truly important and meaningful in our lives. The wisdom of silence is not just an intellectual understanding, but a deep, embodied knowing. It is a knowing that transcends thought and is felt in the very core of our being. This wisdom does not come from the mind's analysis or reasoning. It comes from the stillness that allows us to connect to the source of all life. In silence, we tap into the deepest well of wisdom, one that is always available but often hidden beneath the surface of our busy, distracted lives. As we cultivate this silence, we uncover the truths that have always been present, waiting for us to listen. One of the most profound realizations that silence brings is the recognition that we are not our thoughts. Our minds are filled with constant chatter, but this chatter does not define who we are. When we sit in silence, we begin to observe our thoughts without becoming attached to them. We realize that thoughts are simply fleeting phenomena that come and go. They do not determine our worth or our identity. Silence allows us to see beyond the surface of our thoughts, revealing a deeper, unchanging truth about who we are. This realization frees us from the constant need to identify with our thoughts and emotions, allowing us to experience life with greater clarity and peace. Silence also reveals the deeper layers of our consciousness. When we stop trying to control our thoughts or emotions, we create the space for deeper wisdom to arise. This wisdom is not the product of logical thinking, but of direct experience. It is a knowing that comes from being fully present, from allowing ourselves to be in the moment without judgment or resistance. In this space, we begin to access the deeper truths of existence, truths about our interconnectedness with all beings, about the impermanence of life, and about the nature of suffering and happiness. Silence reveals these truths not as abstract concepts, but as lived experiences that we can directly feel and understand. As we continue to explore the power of silence, we begin to see that it is not something to be sought after or achieved. It is already within us, waiting to be uncovered. The more we practice silence, the more we begin to see that it is not an external force, but an inner state of being. It is not about escaping the noise of the world, but about reconnecting with our true selves. In this silence, we find the peace and clarity that we have been searching for all along. We realize that we are not separate from the world, but an integral part of it, and that the answers to our deepest questions lie not in the external world, but within our own hearts and minds. The fullness of silence is a reminder that we are more than our thoughts, more than our emotions, more than our achievements. It is a recognition that our true nature is boundless, infinite, and interconnected with all of life. In silence, we encounter the core of our being, the essence of who we are, free from the distortions of the mind and the distractions of the world. It is in this silence that we discover the truth of our existence, and it is in this truth that we find our peace, our purpose, and our place in the world. Silence does not merely reveal answers, it reveals the very nature of life itself. As we continue our journey through silence, it becomes clear that it's not only a tool for understanding our true nature, but also a path to deep clarity. Just like a fog that obscures our view, the constant noise in our minds clouds our ability to see things as they truly are. Our thoughts, emotions, and distractions accumulate over time, creating a mental fog that distorts our perceptions and makes it difficult to understand what's really going on within us and around us. This fog can make us feel lost, uncertain, and overwhelmed. But silence, when embraced, has the incredible power to clear this fog, offering us a fresh perspective, free from the confusion and clutter of daily life. The first step in clearing the mental fog is recognizing that it's there. We often go about our daily routines without noticing how much our minds are cluttered. We rarely pause long enough to see the full extent of the noise, the unresolved emotions, and the unchecked thoughts that are constantly swirling inside. But when we stop, when we allow ourselves to sit in silence, we begin to notice the fog. It's in the stillness that we can finally hear our own thoughts clearly and see the patterns that have been clouding our judgment. It's only when we give ourselves the space to listen and observe that we start to understand the mental fog that has been holding us back. This clearing of the mental fog is not a quick fix. It is a gradual process. As we sit in silence, we begin to sift through the layers of noise, recognizing which thoughts are important and which are just distractions. Silence allows us to confront the thoughts and emotions that have been driving us, helping us see them clearly without becoming overwhelmed by them. This process requires patience and self-compassion, as the mind will often resist stillness, constantly wanting to move or think about something else. But as we persist in silence, we start to notice that the fog slowly begins to lift. We see things more clearly, not because we're forcing clarity, but because the mind has finally had the chance to rest and recalibrate. The beauty of silence as a tool for mental clarity lies in its ability to calm the storm of thoughts. When we stop adding to the noise in our heads, we give ourselves the chance to simply be. It's in these moments of quiet that the answers we've been seeking naturally arise. The clarity isn't something we need to chase, it's already within us. The mental fog obscures our ability to recognize it, but silence allows us to step back and allow that clarity to reveal itself. It's as if we've been standing too close to a painting for too long, and by stepping back, we finally see the full picture. In the absence of mental chatter, we start to reconnect with our true self. The mind, when constantly occupied with worries, judgments, and expectations, becomes disconnected from the present moment. Silence brings us back to the here and now, allowing us to experience life as it truly is, without the interference of our mental filters. This return to the present moment is key to clearing the fog. When we stop living in the past or future and embrace the present, we begin to see things with fresh eyes, without the distortions that our thoughts and emotions often impose. This mental clarity is not just about understanding ourselves better. It also impacts how we relate to the world around us. The fog in our minds can cloud our perception of others, causing misunderstandings, judgments, and unnecessary conflicts. When the fog lifts, we start to see people more clearly. We recognize their true intentions, feel more compassion, and are better able to respond from a place of understanding rather than reaction. Silence clears our mental lenses, allowing us to engage with the world in a way that is more mindful, compassionate, and centered. It's important to note that silence doesn't eliminate the challenges we face. It doesn't make our problems disappear, nor does it immediately solve everything. But what it does is help us face these challenges with a clearer mind, unclouded by unnecessary worry or confusion. The clarity that silence provides allows us to approach difficulties with a sense of calm and perspective. When the mind is clear, we are better able to make decisions, take thoughtful actions, and understand the deeper truths of the situations we find ourselves in. Silence, in this way, acts as a powerful ally in navigating the ups and downs of life. The process of clearing mental fog through silence also involves a deep level of self-awareness. As we sit quietly, we begin to notice the subtle thoughts and emotions that we've been ignoring or suppressing. These thoughts may not be loud or obvious, but they play a significant role in our mental state. Silence brings them to the surface, giving us the chance to acknowledge them and let them go. This act of letting go is not about force or denial, but about creating space for something more truthful and clear to emerge. As we release these old, unhelpful patterns, the fog begins to dissipate, and we are left with a more authentic and grounded sense of self. Another key aspect of silence as a tool for mental clarity is its ability to help us discern the difference between what is real and what is imagined. Much of the mental fog we experience comes from the stories we tell ourselves, stories about who we are, what we need, and what we fear. These stories often take on a life of their own, distorting our perception of reality. Silence cuts through these stories, helping us to see the world as it is, without the embellishments of our mental narratives. In the stillness, we can recognize the difference between our fears and the actual truth of a situation, allowing us to respond with clarity rather than confusion. In moments of silence, we also begin to notice the subtle shifts in our emotions. The mental fog is often intertwined with unresolved feelings, anger, sadness, fear, or frustration that cloud our perception. When we sit quietly, we give ourselves the chance to process these emotions without being swept away by them. Silence creates the space for us to observe our feelings without judgment, allowing them to come and go naturally. This process of emotional release is crucial to clearing the fog, as it enables us to experience our emotions fully without letting them control us. The act of sitting in silence itself also teaches us to be more present in our daily lives. Often, the fog in our minds is the result of living in a constant state of distraction. We are either ruminating on the past or worrying about the future, and in doing so, we miss what is right in front of us. Silence teaches us to slow down and be present. It helps us tune into the simple joys and experiences of life that we often overlook in the rush of daily existence. As we practice silence, we become more attuned to the richness of each moment, and this heightened awareness brings clarity to our experiences. Finally, silence offers a refuge from the constant demands and pressures of life. The mental fog we often experience is exacerbated by the noise of the outside world, the constant flow of information, the demands of work and relationships, and the never-ending stream of tasks. Silence provides us with a sanctuary from this external noise, allowing us to recharge and reset. In the stillness, we find a sense of peace that is not dependent on the outside world, but is rooted in our own inner state. This peace acts as a foundation for clarity, helping us to navigate the challenges of life with greater ease and confidence. As we continue to cultivate silence in our lives, we begin to understand that mental clarity is not something that is gained through external achievement or accumulation. It is something that arises naturally when we give ourselves the space to stop, to listen, and to be present. The fog clears not because we try harder, but because we allow ourselves the space to relax, to release, and to simply be. In this space of stillness, the mind finds its natural clarity, and with that clarity comes a deep understanding of ourselves, our emotions, and our place in the world. The fog of the mind may clear, and stillness may settle, but beneath the surface of even the calmest of minds lies the intricate web of our ego. We have come to rely on this mental construct to define who we are, shaping our actions, thoughts, and interactions with the world. It is a shield, an identity that protects us from vulnerability and makes sense of our place in the world. But in the silence, when all the external noise fades away, the ego is no longer needed. It begins to dissolve, and in that space, we are left with something pure, our true self, unconditioned and untainted by the stories we tell ourselves. The more we allow silence into our lives, the more we begin to see the subtle ways in which the ego operates. It's not always loud or obvious. In fact, the ego often hides behind our thoughts, our emotions, and our desires. It convinces us that we are separate, different, or superior, that we are defined by our achievements or failures. But in silence, we can no longer rely on these false identities. We begin to see them for what they are, fleeting constructions that don't truly reflect who we are. As we sit quietly and observe, the ego begins to peel away like layers of clothing, exposing the core of our being. And in this raw space, we encounter the true self, unaffected by judgment, fear, or pride. The ego thrives on attachment. It attaches itself to the past, to experiences, to the roles we play, and to the approval of others. It wants to create a narrative, a story that makes sense of who we are, who we've been, and who we will become. But in silence, we are invited to step outside of this narrative. We are no longer held captive by the identities we have constructed. Silence offers us the opportunity to simply be, without the need for labels or definitions. As we allow this stillness to deepen, we find that the self we thought we knew is not as solid or permanent as we once believed. It is fluid, constantly shifting and changing, and that is where its true beauty lies. In the absence of ego-based narratives, silence acts as a mirror, reflecting back our unconditioned self. The mirror does not distort. It shows us exactly what we are. When the mind is still and quiet, the truths that lie beneath the surface of our thoughts and beliefs become clear. We no longer need to rely on external validation or approval because we begin to recognize that we are enough as we are. Silence provides the space to see ourselves without the layers of judgment or fear that the ego projects onto us. It allows us to witness ourselves as we truly are, without comparison, without striving, and without the need to be anything other than what we are in this moment. The ego often feeds on fear. It fears failure, rejection, and the unknown. It tries to control and protect, creating a sense of security through rigid beliefs and attachments. But silence teaches us that fear is not the truth of who we are. In stillness, we can see that our fears are merely mental constructions, not reflections of our true nature. When we sit quietly, we begin to recognize that fear does not define us. It may come and go, but it is not permanent, and it does not have the power to control us unless we let it. Silence strips away the grip of fear, revealing the deeper, more peaceful nature that exists within us. It is in this peacefulness that we find our true strength, one that is not rooted in defense or protection, but in acceptance and presence. One of the most profound aspects of silence is that it forces us to confront the very nature of our thoughts. The ego often thrives on our identification with these thoughts, convincing us that we are what we think. But when we sit in silence, we begin to see that thoughts are not who we are. They are simply passing events in the mind, not permanent fixtures of our identity. Silence provides the opportunity to observe these thoughts from a distance without getting entangled in them. This detachment from thought allows us to witness the impermanence of the ego, as the thoughts and beliefs that once seemed so solid dissolve in the quiet. As we continue to observe the ego's patterns, we start to notice how much of our identity is based on external factors: how we look, what we achieve, how others perceive us. The ego constructs its sense of self through these external markers, but in silence, we begin to realize that true self-worth is not determined by these things. We are not defined by our accomplishments or the roles we play. Silence reveals the inherent value that exists within us, independent of external validation. We are enough, simply by being. This realization is liberating, for it frees us from the constant pressure to prove ourselves or live up to the expectations of others. In silence, we are also invited to see the interconnectedness of all things. The ego thrives on separation. It creates divisions between us and them, between me and you. It reinforces the illusion that we are distinct, isolated beings, separate from one another and from the world around us. But silence opens us up to a different reality, one where the boundaries between ourselves and others begin to fade. As we sit quietly, we begin to sense that we are not isolated. We are part of a larger whole, interconnected with all beings. This sense of unity and oneness is at the core of our true nature, and silence helps us to reconnect with it. The more we embrace this interconnectedness, the less power the ego has over us. We no longer need to prove our worth or assert our individuality, because we realize that we are already whole, and our worth is inherent in our connection to all of life. As we move beyond the ego, we begin to experience a profound sense of freedom. The ego constantly demands attention, validation, and recognition. It wants to be seen, heard, and acknowledged. But in silence, we no longer need to seek validation from others or the external world. We begin to live from a place of inner peace, where the need for external approval no longer defines us. Silence gives us the freedom to simply be, to exist without the pressure to perform or conform. In this space, we discover a sense of ease and contentment that does not depend on external circumstances, but is rooted in our own being. The ego, which once seemed so important, fades into the background as we embrace the simplicity of just being. As we sit in silence, we also come to realize that the ego is not something that can be eradicated completely. It is a natural part of being human, and it will always arise in certain situations. But in silence, we learn to recognize the ego's influence without being controlled by it. We can observe its patterns, its desires, and its fears without letting them dictate our actions. In this way, silence becomes a tool for transformation. It helps us to see the ego's limitations, and it provides the space for us to choose how we respond to it. The more we practice silence, the more we become familiar with the true self that lies beyond the ego, and the more we can live from that place of authenticity and peace. In the silence, we begin to see that we are not defined by our thoughts, our fears, or our desires. We are not the stories we tell ourselves or the roles we play. We are the awareness that witnesses it all. This awareness is not separate from the world. It is the same awareness that connects all beings. It is the essence of who we are, untouched by the fluctuations of the mind. Silence helps us reconnect with this essence, offering us a glimpse of the boundless, unconditioned self that lies beyond the ego. When we embrace this awareness, we find that we are no longer bound by the limitations of the ego, and we are free to experience life as it truly is, in all its beauty and simplicity. Through silence, we step beyond the ego's stories and into the truth of who we are. This truth is not something we need to strive for or achieve. It is already within us, waiting to be uncovered. As we sit in stillness, we shed the layers of the ego and reconnect with our authentic self. In this space, we find peace, clarity, and freedom. The ego may continue to arise, but it no longer defines us. We are free to live from a place of truth and authenticity, no longer bound by the illusions of separation and individuality. This is the gift of silence, the ability to see beyond the ego and to reconnect with the pure essence of who we are. As we peel back the layers of silence, we find that it is not merely a tool for inner peace or a way to quiet the mind. It is also the vessel through which some of the most profound Buddhist teachings are imparted. These teachings do not always arrive through words, lectures, or doctrines, but rather through the subtle language of quietude. In the space between thoughts, in the stillness of meditation, and in the presence of the teacher, a deeper wisdom is transmitted, one that speaks directly to the heart, bypassing the intellectual mind. Silence, in this sense, is not an absence of communication. It is the most powerful form of communication, carrying teachings that cannot be articulated through words alone. Buddhist teachings often emphasize the importance of experiencing truth directly rather than merely intellectualizing it. This is where silence plays a critical role. The most transformative lessons are those that cannot be fully understood through our usual thinking process. Silence, by its very nature, opens up a different mode of understanding, one that doesn't rely on the linear, logical mind, but rather on the direct experience of being. The space in silence is not empty. It is filled with the potential for insight and awakening, providing us with a deeper connection to the wisdom that Buddhism seeks to impart. In Buddhist tradition, silence is a primary vehicle for the transmission of Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha. While many teachings are shared through spoken words, some of the most significant lessons are delivered in the quiet moments, where words are not needed. A Zen master may offer guidance not through speech, but through simple presence, showing the student that wisdom is found not in the intellectual pursuit of knowledge, but in the act of simply being present with what is. In this presence, the mind quiets, the ego dissolves, and a deeper understanding unfolds. Silence, therefore, becomes a sacred space, one where the teacher's presence speaks louder than any words ever could. Meditation, too, serves as a prime example of the profound teachings that silence can offer. The practice of meditation invites us to step away from the constant stream of thought and into a space of quiet contemplation. Here, the mind has the opportunity to settle, and in that stillness, we begin to access the deepest parts of ourselves. It is in the silence of meditation that many practitioners encounter profound realizations about the nature of existence, the impermanence of life, and the interdependence of all beings. These realizations do not come through intellectual study or academic learning, but through direct experience, through the silent, mindful awareness that arises when we sit still and listen deeply to the present moment. The power of silence in transmitting Buddhist teachings is also evident in the use of koans. These paradoxical statements or questions, often posed by Zen masters, do not have clear answers and are not intended to be solved through rational thought. Instead, koans are designed to break through the limitations of the ego and the thinking mind, guiding the practitioner toward direct insight. In this process, silence plays a central role. The koan itself does not provide an immediate answer, but it creates a space for contemplation, a space in which the mind can quiet itself and allow a deeper wisdom to arise. The answer to the koan is not found in words or logic. It is found in the silence between the words, in the stillness that arises when the mind lets go of its need to understand. In the Buddhist tradition, the teacher's silence is often as powerful as their words. A Zen master's silence can be just as transformative as a lecture on the nature of impermanence or compassion. This silence is not a passive absence of communication, but an active presence that speaks to the student on a profound level. Through their quiet presence, the teacher models a state of awareness and openness that the student can learn to embody. In this way, silence becomes a living teaching, one that can only be fully understood through direct experience. The deeper one delves into Buddhist practice, the more one begins to realize that silence is not simply a retreat from the noise of the world, but a necessary element for true understanding. It is in the silence that we learn to listen not only to the external world, but to our own inner wisdom. As we sit in stillness, we begin to hear the subtle messages that arise from within, the insights, the truths, the guidance that are always available to us, but often drowned out by the noise of our thoughts and emotions. Silence, therefore, is not a void, but a rich, fertile space where wisdom can take root and flourish. In some Buddhist schools, such as Vipassana meditation, silence is considered an essential part of the practice. The retreat environment, where participants commit to silence for days or even weeks, is designed to help practitioners quiet the mind and let go of the distractions that prevent them from seeing clearly. In the absence of conversation and external distractions, the mind begins to settle. The body becomes more attuned to its sensations, and the mind becomes more aware of its habitual patterns. It is in this state of deep silence that many practitioners report experiencing moments of profound clarity and insight. These moments are not the result of intellectual effort, but of simply allowing the mind to rest and witness the present moment without interference. Silence also holds a special place in the understanding of the nature of suffering. Buddhist teachings emphasize that suffering arises from our attachment to things, our desire for control, and our inability to accept the impermanence of life. In silence, we are able to observe these attachments and desires without judgment. We can see how they arise in the mind and how they cause suffering, but we do not need to act on them. Silence allows us to step back from the mental noise and gain a perspective that is not clouded by attachment. In this clarity, we see that suffering is not an inherent part of existence, but a result of our attachment to things as they are. When we let go of this attachment, we experience freedom from suffering. Through silence, we also begin to recognize the interdependence of all things. Buddhism teaches that all beings are connected through a vast network of cause and effect. In silence, we become more attuned to this interconnectedness. As the mind quiets, we begin to feel the subtle connections between ourselves and others, between our actions and their consequences, and between our thoughts and the world around us. This recognition of interdependence is not an intellectual understanding, but a direct experience that arises in the stillness of meditation or mindful presence. It is in this silence that we come to understand that our well-being is not separate from the well-being of others, and that the happiness of all beings is interconnected with our own. Silence is also a path to cultivating compassion. When the mind is noisy and cluttered, it is difficult to see the suffering of others clearly. We become absorbed in our own thoughts and worries, and we fail to recognize the pain that others are experiencing. But when we create space for silence, we open ourselves up to the suffering of the world. We begin to notice the subtle cues of those around us, the unspoken words, the body language, the energy that emanates from others. Silence allows us to listen deeply, not only with our ears, but with our hearts. In this deep listening, we cultivate compassion as we recognize that the suffering of others is not separate from our own. Silence, therefore, is not only a tool for personal transformation, but also for the cultivation of empathy and love. The power of silence in Buddhism lies in its ability to cut through the clutter of the mind and reveal deeper truths. Whether through meditation, the presence of a teacher, or the practice of mindful silence, the wisdom of silence transcends words. It invites us to stop seeking answers in the external world and instead turn inward, where the answers have always been waiting. It teaches us to listen with more than just our ears, to hear the unspoken teachings that are woven into the fabric of existence. Through silence, we begin to understand that the deepest truths cannot be fully captured by words. They must be experienced directly. And it is in this direct experience, in the quiet spaces between thoughts, that we encounter the most profound teachings of all. The silence that we've explored so far holds profound teachings, and one of its most powerful gifts is the clarity it provides in seeing life as it truly is, impermanent. When we sit in stillness, away from the constant noise of thought and distraction, we begin to witness the transitory nature of all things. Every moment, every experience is fleeting. The world around us is in constant motion, and yet it is often in the silence that we truly grasp the impermanence of life. The more we embrace this truth, the more deeply we understand not only the nature of reality, but also how to live fully in the present moment. Silence invites us into a deeper awareness, where we can see the constant ebb and flow of life. In moments of quiet reflection, the mind naturally becomes more attuned to the fact that nothing stays the same. Relationships, thoughts, feelings, and even our physical bodies are in a continuous state of change. This recognition doesn't come through intellectual understanding or analysis, but through experience. It is the stillness that allows us to feel the transitory nature of life on a visceral level, helping us to internalize this truth beyond just knowing it conceptually. We often try to hold on to moments, emotions, and experiences as if they could last forever. But silence gently teaches us that clinging to anything only leads to suffering. When we pause and allow ourselves to be fully present without trying to control or preserve anything, we begin to see that life's fleeting nature is a natural part of existence. It's only in this acceptance of impermanence that we find freedom. Freedom from the need to hold on, freedom from the anxiety of losing something or someone, and freedom from the attachment to the past or the fear of the future. The practice of silence helps us to feel this impermanence in our bones. It slows down the mental clutter and creates space for deeper reflection on how time moves, how it passes, and how it shapes our lives. When we allow ourselves to sit quietly, without the distractions of the outside world or the constant inner dialogue, we come face to face with the reality that nothing is permanent. Our emotions come and go, just like the waves in the ocean. The events in our lives, the people we meet, and the experiences we have all arise and fade, just like the seasons change. In silence, we see that every moment is precious precisely because it is temporary, and this realization allows us to engage with life more fully, more mindfully, and with greater appreciation. The awareness of impermanence isn't meant to bring us sorrow, but to inspire us to live with greater presence. Silence allows us to embrace the idea that life, in all its beauty and challenge, is temporary. This impermanence is what makes every moment valuable. When we acknowledge that nothing lasts forever, we become more deeply connected to the present, to the people around us, and to the world itself. Silence allows us to stop rushing, stop worrying about the future, and stop clinging to the past, helping us to rest in the beauty of now. In this way, it reveals how deeply precious each moment truly is. When we are constantly distracted, we lose sight of the reality that everything around us is constantly changing. Silence cuts through this distraction, bringing us back to the core of our existence. The more we sit in stillness, the more we witness the ebb and flow of our thoughts, emotions, and sensations. We begin to see them arise and pass away, much like the changing of the seasons. In this realization, we understand that we too are part of this cycle. Our lives, our bodies, our thoughts, and our experiences are all impermanent. In this space of awareness, we are freed from the grip of attachment. We begin to live more lightly, more fully, and with less fear of loss, because we realize that loss is simply another part of the flow of life. Impermanence is not a negative thing. Rather, it is a profound truth that enables us to appreciate the transient nature of everything. When we hold on too tightly to any moment, we miss the beauty of its fleeting nature. Silence, in this context, becomes the perfect companion to this understanding. It allows us to witness the transitory nature of life with clear eyes, free from the emotional noise that often clouds our perception. It helps us to let go of our attachments, not by force or resistance, but through the natural unfolding of awareness. Through silence, we learn that each moment is not something to be preserved, but something to be experienced fully. When we try to hold on to things, we become trapped in the fear of losing them. But when we embrace impermanence, we can let go of this fear. Silence teaches us to see that each moment is unique, and though it may pass quickly, it holds immeasurable value. Whether we are sitting in stillness, enjoying a conversation with a loved one, or walking in nature, we learn to engage fully with each experience, without the need to possess or control it. The silence of impermanence also gives us the space to process the more difficult aspects of life's transitory nature: loss, change, and death. In the quiet, we can confront these truths without the distractions that usually push us away from them. Silence doesn't offer answers, but it allows us to sit with our grief, our fears, and our uncertainties. It gives us permission to feel the weight of life's impermanence, not as something to be avoided, but as something that helps us grow. By accepting that everything is impermanent, we are invited to embrace life more deeply, to live without regret, and to make peace with what we cannot control. This acceptance of impermanence is also tied to the practice of mindfulness. In silence, we learn to be fully present in each moment, not thinking about the next or lamenting the past. We experience life exactly as it is, free from the distortion of our desires and expectations. We come to understand that everything around us is in a constant state of change, and that includes ourselves. This understanding can lead to a profound sense of peace and contentment as we release the need to cling to the past or control the future. Silence teaches us that what we have right now is enough, because it, too, is part of the ever-changing flow of life. The true power of silence lies in its ability to bring us into direct contact with the impermanence of life. In the stillness, we witness the passing of time, the rise and fall of thoughts and feelings, and the constant flux of our experiences. This awareness is not something that can be learned from books or discussions. It must be felt, directly experienced in the present moment. Silence opens the door to this experience, allowing us to see life's transitory nature clearly and without distortion. As we sit in silence, we begin to experience the impermanence of not just the external world, but also our internal states. Thoughts, emotions, and sensations come and go, constantly shifting like the tide. Silence helps us to understand that we are not defined by these temporary states. They arise, they pass, and we are left with a deep sense of awareness that is ever-present and unchanging. It is this awareness that transcends the fear and attachment tied to impermanence. When we embrace the fleeting nature of everything, we begin to live with greater peace, knowing that we do not need to hold on to anything because all things are already in constant movement. In the end, silence reveals to us that life is not something to be controlled, but something to be experienced as it unfolds. It teaches us that impermanence is not something to fear, but something to celebrate. The beauty of life lies in its transitory nature, its ability to change, evolve, and renew. Through silence, we come to understand that our role in life is not to hold on, but to engage fully in the present moment, to appreciate each fleeting experience for what it is, and to find peace in the ever-changing flow of existence. It is in this acceptance of impermanence that we find true freedom, the freedom to live fully, without attachment, without fear, and with deep gratitude for each moment as it is. The impermanence of life reveals much about the fleeting nature of our thoughts, emotions, and experiences. It teaches us that everything is constantly changing, and the only real constant is the present moment. In that moment, when we allow ourselves to sit in silence, something extraordinary happens. The chaos and noise that so often occupy our minds fade, leaving only stillness behind. In this quiet, answers begin to emerge. There is no longer a need to search or strive. The act of simply being, sitting in silence, becomes the path to finding true peace and clarity. Sitting in silence is not just a practice, it is a profound way of connecting with our inner selves. The world constantly pulls at our attention, pushing us to do, to achieve, and to plan. But silence offers an alternative, a space where nothing is demanded of us. Here, we do not need to prove anything, think through any problems, or chase after the next goal. In the stillness, we are simply present, and in that presence, peace arises naturally. The mind quiets, the body relaxes, and we begin to experience the world in a different way. When we sit in silence, we begin to notice how much of our mental energy is spent on unnecessary thoughts. These thoughts are often not our own, but are influenced by the world around us. We constantly react to external stimuli, caught up in a whirlwind of emotions, judgments, and worries. But when we create a space of silence, we begin to step outside of this constant flow. The external world may continue to spin, but we are no longer carried along by it. In silence, we regain control, not by forcing the world to stop, but by allowing ourselves to pause and simply be. This practice of sitting still is powerful because it teaches us how to live in the present moment. So much of our time is spent thinking about the past or the future, but these are illusions. The past is gone, and the future has yet to arrive. Only the present is real. Yet, how often do we actually experience it? Sitting in silence allows us to be fully present, without distractions. In this presence, we begin to reconnect with ourselves and the world around us in a deeper, more authentic way. This connection fosters peace, peace that comes from being fully immersed in the now, without the weight of past regrets or future anxieties. Silence also offers us clarity, but not in the way we might expect. In the stillness, the mind does not race to solve problems or make decisions. Instead, it rests. And in this resting, the true answers to our questions emerge naturally. There is no need to force insight or search for solutions. When we sit in silence, the mind becomes clearer, and in that clarity, we see things as they are, not clouded by judgment or bias. The answers we seek are not buried in complicated thoughts, but are revealed in the simplicity of being still. The more we practice this stillness, the more we realize that answers do not come from thinking harder. They come from stepping away from thought altogether. The ability to sit in silence and find peace is transformative because it shifts our relationship with the world. Instead of constantly reacting to life, we begin to respond from a place of calm. The external world may still present challenges, but in silence, we are no longer overwhelmed by them. We have cultivated the inner space to meet challenges with equanimity. We learn that we do not need to control every situation or have every answer. Sometimes, the most powerful response is simply to be present, to listen, and to allow clarity to emerge on its own. This acceptance of the present moment, without resistance, is the essence of inner peace. As we continue to sit in silence, we begin to discover a deeper understanding of ourselves. The silence exposes the layers of the mind, our desires, fears, insecurities, and attachments. Initially, this may feel uncomfortable. We may be faced with parts of ourselves that we'd rather avoid. But as we remain in the stillness, we start to see that these are not truths about who we are. They are passing thoughts, and like all thoughts, they too will pass. In this awareness, we begin to release our identification with these thoughts, and with it, the grip of ego loosens. We are no longer bound by the stories we tell ourselves. Instead, we experience ourselves as we truly are, beings of presence, free from the confines of past experiences or future expectations. Sitting in silence also reveals the deep connection we share with others. In the stillness, we see that we are not isolated beings, but part of a greater whole. The external world, though it may seem separate at times, is interconnected in ways that become apparent in silence. When we stop to listen, truly listen, we begin to recognize the shared human experience, the struggles, the joys, the fears, and the hopes that bind us together. In silence, we are reminded that we are not alone, and this understanding fosters compassion. It allows us to see others without judgment or division, simply as fellow travelers on this journey of life. The practice of sitting in silence also allows us to process emotions in a way that is often not possible when we are caught up in the rush of daily life. When we experience a strong emotion, our first instinct may be to push it away, distract ourselves, or find a quick solution. But in silence, we are invited to sit with these emotions without resistance. We don't need to fix them or escape them. Instead, we allow ourselves to feel them fully, without judgment or fear. In this space, we learn that emotions are not permanent. They are simply visitors passing through. By allowing ourselves to experience them fully, we free ourselves from their control. This practice of sitting in silence also teaches us patience. In a world that constantly demands instant results and quick fixes, silence asks us to slow down. It reminds us that peace and clarity are not achieved through effort or force, but through presence and acceptance. Sitting in silence requires no external action, no specific outcome, and no need to rush. It is an invitation to simply be. And in this being, we learn that true peace is not something to be obtained, but something that arises naturally when we stop trying so hard. As we develop the ability to sit in silence and experience peace, we begin to see that peace is not something that can be found outside of ourselves. It is not dependent on circumstances, people, or outcomes. It is an internal state, one that arises when we create the space to listen deeply to our own hearts and minds. Silence teaches us that peace is always available to us, waiting to be discovered in the present moment. We do not need to search for it in external pursuits. We need only to sit, breathe, and allow the stillness to reveal it to us. This practice also opens us to the deeper mysteries of life, those things that cannot be understood with the intellect alone. In silence, we become more attuned to the subtle rhythms of existence, the patterns that govern nature, the quiet presence of the divine, the interconnectedness of all things. These are truths that cannot be explained by words or concepts, but can only be felt in the silence of our hearts. As we sit quietly, we align ourselves with these greater truths, and in doing so, we experience a deeper sense of belonging to the world around us. The simplicity of sitting in silence is not a passive act, but a deeply transformative one. It is through this stillness that we are able to reconnect with the essence of who we are, to find peace in the present moment, and to tap into the wisdom that lies beyond the limitations of the thinking mind. In silence, we find that all the answers we seek are not out there in the world or in complex intellectual pursuits. They are within us, waiting to be discovered. And as we sit in this stillness, we find the clarity and peace that we have been seeking all along. It is in this practice of silence that we truly begin to live, fully, peacefully, and authentically. As we sit in stillness, cultivating inner peace, we begin to recognize something remarkable. Silence is not confined to our own minds or meditation practices. It extends into the natural world around us. The universe itself, in its quiet moments, speaks to us in a language that transcends words. It's easy to overlook these subtle messages in the hustle and bustle of daily life, but when we slow down and listen, nature begins to reveal its wisdom in profound ways. Silence, when embraced fully, allows us to decode the silent language of the universe, offering insights and answers that cannot be captured by human speech. Nature, in all its simplicity, communicates with us not through loud noises or direct instructions, but through quiet rhythms and patterns. The rustling of leaves, the gentle flow of water, the shifting of clouds, these are all part of a silent language that has been speaking to humanity for centuries. Yet, so often, we miss its messages because we are too caught up in the noise of our own minds or the demands of modern life. When we allow ourselves to sit quietly, we begin to hear the unspoken wisdom that nature offers. This wisdom doesn't come with clear instructions or immediate answers, but rather with an invitation to pause, reflect, and feel the deep interconnectedness of all life. The way nature operates is not chaotic or random. There are rhythms, cycles, and patterns that govern everything from the movement of the stars to the growth of a plant. In silence, these patterns become more apparent. We start to notice the slow, steady unfolding of life in ways that our busy minds often miss. A flower blooming, the seasons changing, the tides ebbing and flowing. These are all expressions of nature's quiet wisdom. When we sit in silence, we are not just observing these events, but becoming attuned to the deeper forces that shape them. We begin to understand that everything in nature is connected, that each moment is part of a larger, ongoing process. One of the most profound lessons that nature offers us in its silence is the lesson of impermanence. Just as we experienced in our earlier reflections on impermanence, nature's quiet rhythms reflect this truth in everything it produces. The cycle of birth, growth, decay, and death is evident everywhere we look. In the quiet of nature, we see how everything has its time and place. Trees grow tall only to shed their leaves in the fall, and the river that flows so steadily today will eventually dry up or change course. The seasons come and go, and each has its moment, but none lasts forever. Nature teaches us that change is the only constant, and in the silence of its cycles, we learn to embrace this truth. This quiet language of nature also reveals the importance of patience. In a world that demands instant results, nature moves at its own pace. A tree doesn't rush to grow, and the moon doesn't hurry to rise. Everything in nature follows its own natural rhythm, growing, changing, and evolving in perfect harmony with the world around it. When we sit in silence and observe these processes, we are reminded that we, too, are part of this larger rhythm. We are not separate from the flow of life, but an integral part of it. The universe moves in its own time, and by learning to listen to its quiet wisdom, we begin to see the value of patience in our own lives. There is also a deep sense of connection that emerges when we listen to the silent language of nature. The more we become attuned to its rhythms, the more we realize that everything in the universe is interconnected. The rain that falls on the earth nourishes the plants provide food for animals, and the animals contribute to the soil, creating a cycle that sustains all life. In silence, we begin to recognize that we are not isolated individuals, but part of a vast, interconnected web of existence. Nature's quiet language reminds us that every action, every breath, and every thought affects the world around us. This understanding fosters a deep sense of responsibility and compassion as we realize that we are all part of a larger whole. The natural world also speaks to us through its stillness. In moments of silence, we become aware of the stillness that pervades the universe. The earth itself is in constant motion, but there are moments when we pause and listen, when it seems as if everything is at rest. In these moments of stillness, we experience the profound peace that underlies all things. It is in these quiet times that we connect with the deepest parts of ourselves, and we begin to understand that peace is not something to be found externally, but something that already exists within us. Nature's silence teaches us that we don't need to look for peace outside ourselves, because it is inherent in the very fabric of the universe. One of the most powerful ways that nature communicates with us through silence is by offering us a sense of perspective. When we take the time to sit quietly in nature, whether it's in a forest, by the ocean, or in a garden, we begin to see our lives from a broader perspective. The concerns and stresses that feel so overwhelming in our everyday lives seem small in comparison to the vastness of the natural world. The trees, the mountains, the stars, they have been here long before us and will continue long after we are gone. In the silence of nature, we are reminded that our problems, our worries, and our struggles are temporary. The vastness of the universe puts everything into perspective, and in this understanding, we find peace. The silent wisdom of nature also invites us to reconnect with the simplicity of life. In the hustle and bustle of modern life, we often forget that the most profound experiences come from the simplest moments. The sound of birdsong, the scent of the earth after rain, the feel of the sun on our skin, these simple pleasures are all part of nature's silent language. When we sit quietly and attune ourselves to these small, everyday miracles, we begin to see how much beauty surrounds us. Silence helps us to appreciate these simple moments, and in doing so, it leads us to a deeper sense of gratitude and contentment. Nature's silent wisdom also speaks to us through its resilience. Despite the challenges it faces, the changing climate, the destruction of ecosystems, the forces of nature, life continues to thrive. Nature does not resist change, it adapts to it. In silence, we witness this resilience, this ability to bend without breaking, to move with the flow of life rather than against it. We are reminded that we, too, have the capacity to adapt and grow, even in the face of adversity. Silence teaches us that resilience is not about avoiding hardship, but about embracing change, and learning to navigate life with grace and patience. As we deepen our connection to the silent language of nature, we also begin to realize that the wisdom it offers is timeless. The natural world doesn't speak in the way that we do, but its lessons are universal. They transcend culture, time, and geography. The rhythms of nature, the rising and setting of the sun, the cycles of the moon, the changing of the seasons, are the same for all beings. Silence, in this context, becomes a universal language that unites us all. It reminds us that no matter our differences, we are all part of this same vast, interconnected web of existence. The more we listen to the quiet wisdom of nature, the more we realize that silence is not an absence, but a presence. It is the space in which everything unfolds, the canvas upon which life is painted. In this stillness, we encounter the deepest truths of existence, truths that cannot be spoken, but can only be experienced. The silent language of the universe is an invitation to step beyond the noise of the world and into a deeper understanding of who we are, where we come from, and where we are going. In the end, the wisdom of nature is not something to be learned, but something to be experienced. Silence is the key that unlocks this wisdom, allowing us to hear the unspoken messages that nature has been offering all along. Through silence, we gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the world, and we come to see that we are not separate from the earth, but deeply connected to it. The more we listen to the silent language of nature, the more we align ourselves with the rhythms of the universe, and the more we find peace, purpose, and meaning in every moment of our lives. As we move deeper into understanding the silent language of nature and its wisdom, we begin to realize that silence is not just a passive space, it is an active teacher. In Buddhism, silence does not merely serve as a backdrop for reflection, it is itself a profound instructor, guiding us to insights that words or concepts cannot fully capture. When we look beyond the surface of silence, we discover a teaching that transcends the mind's limitations, offering lessons that can only be truly understood in stillness. This silent teaching is subtle, yet powerful. It speaks directly to the heart, bypassing the intellect and inviting us to experience life in its rawest, most unfiltered form. Silence, as a teacher, doesn't rely on the conventional means of instruction. There are no lectures, no discussions, no direct answers. Instead, silence teaches through presence. A quiet room, the stillness of a moment, the absence of thought. These are the spaces where the most profound lessons are learned. In the same way that a mirror reflects our image without judgment, silence reflects the state of our mind and being. It holds a mirror up to our innermost thoughts, fears, and desires, allowing us to see them clearly without the distortions that our words often impose. Through silence, we come to understand not what we think we are, but what we truly are in our most authentic state. In Buddhist practice, the role of silence extends far beyond meditation. It is woven into the very fabric of the teachings. A teacher's silence can sometimes convey more wisdom than any spoken word. The silence in the room during a meditation retreat, the moments of quiet between exchanges, the stillness between actions, all of these carry teachings. Silence itself is an invitation to pause, to stop, and to simply observe. In doing so, we learn the art of mindfulness, the practice of being present with whatever arises without judgment. The lesson here is not something we can simply think about or understand with our minds. It is something that must be felt and embodied. Silence often speaks in the spaces between words, in the gaps where meaning is not immediately apparent. Buddhist teachings are full of such moments, where the most significant lessons are not directly stated, but are implied in the quiet pauses. These pauses create a space for reflection, allowing us to digest what has been said, to sit with the unspoken, and to realize that the deepest insights often come in moments of stillness. In fact, some of the most profound Buddhist teachings come not from what is taught verbally, but from the silence that accompanies the teachings. The silence between the words is where the essence of the teachings resides, in the stillness that allows us to directly experience the truth without the filter of our own interpretations or judgments. The path of Buddhism is not about accumulating knowledge, but about shedding layers of illusion and attachment. Silence helps us to shed these layers, enabling us to see the world as it truly is. It creates the space necessary for us to release our attachments to thoughts, to the self, and to external outcomes. As we sit in silence, we begin to notice the stories our minds tell us, the identities we cling to, and the fears we hide from. In silence, we see these things more clearly. The truth comes to the surface when there is no distraction, no noise to cloud our perception. Silence offers a direct route to the core of our being, where we can confront and release the mental constructs that bind us. The role of silence as a teacher is especially evident in the Buddhist practice of koans. These enigmatic phrases or questions posed by Zen masters are not meant to be solved with rational thinking. Instead, they are intended to provoke a direct experience of reality that goes beyond intellectual understanding. A koan might seem nonsensical, yet it holds a profound truth that can only be understood when the mind ceases to analyze and simply rests in the moment. Silence here acts as a powerful teacher, showing us that truth is not something that can be grasped through thought, but something that must be experienced directly. The silence before or after a koan carries the essence of the teaching, inviting us to enter a space where ordinary thinking gives way to a deeper kind of knowing. Similarly, in many meditation practices, the silence between the moments of focus and distraction teaches us about the nature of the mind. We may sit with our eyes closed, attempting to focus on our breath, and during this time, the mind will inevitably wander. But in the silence of our meditation, we come to understand that this wandering is not something to be fought. It is simply part of the natural flow of thoughts. Silence in meditation teaches us to observe without attachment, to let go of the need to control the mind, and to simply be present with whatever arises. In these moments of quiet, we learn the value of acceptance and patience. The lesson is not in fighting the distractions, but in recognizing them and letting them pass, much like clouds drifting through the sky. Silence also teaches us the importance of listening, not just with our ears, but with our hearts and minds. In Buddhist teachings, true listening goes beyond hearing words. It involves paying attention to the unspoken, to the energy and presence that others carry. When we are truly silent, we are not just waiting for our turn to speak. We are fully engaged, open to understanding and connecting with the other person. This is a form of deep listening, where we listen not to respond, but to understand. Silence, in this sense, is an active process that requires full attention. It is through this deep listening that we come to understand the true nature of our relationships and the interconnectedness of all beings. In our modern world, we are constantly surrounded by noise, both external and internal. The distractions are endless, and they make it difficult to hear the subtle whispers of truth that silence offers. But when we take the time to sit in silence, to truly be still, we can begin to hear these whispers more clearly. The silence becomes a space where we can hear not only our own inner voice, but the quiet wisdom of the world around us. Silence allows us to listen to our intuition, to the rhythms of nature, and to the teachings that are always present, waiting for us to tune in. The teaching of silence is also connected to the practice of letting go. In Buddhist philosophy, attachment is one of the primary causes of suffering. We cling to our desires, our opinions, and our identities, and in doing so, we create suffering for ourselves. Silence provides a space in which we can let go of these attachments. When we sit quietly, we are not grasping at anything. We are simply present, without trying to control, define, or change anything. In this space of non-attachment, we experience freedom. We begin to realize that we do not need to hold on to anything because everything is constantly changing. Silence teaches us that freedom comes from letting go, from releasing the need to possess or control. When we allow silence to be our teacher, we begin to experience life more fully, without the constant mental noise that often distracts us. We come to understand that peace and clarity do not arise from the external world, but from within. The lessons that silence imparts are not always obvious or immediate, but they are profound. Silence teaches us to be present, to accept the impermanence of life, to listen deeply, and to let go of attachment. These teachings are simple, yet they hold the key to living a life of peace, wisdom, and compassion. The beauty of silence as a Buddhist teacher is that it speaks directly to the heart, bypassing the intellect. It offers wisdom that is not bound by language or concepts, but by direct experience. It asks us to be present, to listen without judgment, and to let go of the need to control. In doing so, silence opens the door to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. It invites us to step into the fullness of life, free from the distractions of the mind, and to embrace the present moment with clarity, compassion, and peace. As we continue to explore the depth and power of silence, we come to realize that it does more than just calm our minds. It has the ability to cut through the noise and distractions of our daily lives, revealing truths that are often hidden beneath the surface. In a world that bombards us with endless information, opinions, and external pressures, silence offers a rare and powerful opportunity to break through the illusion of separation and distraction. It is in the quiet moments that we begin to see things clearly, without the distortions that our busy minds and the external world create. Silence helps us peel away the layers of illusion that keep us from understanding ourselves and the world around us. In today's world, it is easy to become overwhelmed by the constant flow of information and noise. We are surrounded by the hum of technology, the chatter of social media, and the incessant demands of work and relationships. Our minds, too, are often cluttered with thoughts, worries, and distractions that make it difficult to see things as they truly are. Silence, however, offers a refuge from this chaos. It provides a space in which we can step back and observe our thoughts, our emotions, and the world around us without the influence of outside noise. In that space, we begin to see beyond the illusions we have created about ourselves and the world. The distractions that fill our lives are not only external, they are often internal as well. We live in a constant state of mental activity, constantly thinking, planning, worrying, and reflecting. Our minds are filled with stories we tell ourselves, judgments we make, and assumptions we hold. Silence allows us to stop, to pause, and to observe these mental patterns without getting caught up in them. It allows us to see how the mind creates illusions, and how these illusions shape our perception of reality. In silence, we realize that many of the things we believe about ourselves, others, and the world are simply mental constructs, not truths. They are stories we tell ourselves, and when we stop long enough to listen, we begin to hear a different truth, one that is not clouded by the noise of the mind. Breaking through the noise requires more than just quieting the mind for a moment. It requires a deep engagement with silence, a willingness to let go of the mental chatter that has become so familiar. When we sit in silence, we are not just waiting for the thoughts to stop. We are actively observing them without judgment, without attachment. This process of non-attachment allows us to see the thoughts for what they are: temporary, fleeting, and ultimately unimportant. By stepping back from the constant flow of thoughts, we create space for clarity to emerge. The illusions that once seemed so real begin to dissolve, and we start to see things as they truly are. Silence also helps us confront the illusions that exist outside of us. The world is filled with distractions, temptations, and external pressures that pull us in different directions. We are often led to believe that happiness, success, and fulfillment lie in external achievements or possessions. We chase after these things, thinking they will bring us peace, only to find that they never truly satisfy. Silence, however, offers a different perspective. It shows us that true contentment does not come from external sources, but from within. When we take the time to be still, to listen to the quiet, we begin to realize that everything we seek outside of ourselves is already present within us. We do not need to chase after external validation or possessions to feel complete. Silence reveals that the answers we seek are already within us, hidden beneath the noise of our thoughts and the distractions of the world. When we are immersed in the noise of daily life, it is easy to get caught up in the illusion that we are separate from others and the world around us. The ego thrives on this sense of separation. It convinces us that we are individuals, isolated from the rest of existence. But silence cuts through this illusion and shows us the interconnectedness of all things. When we sit in stillness, we begin to feel a deep sense of connection with everything around us. We realize that we are not separate from the world. We are an integral part of it. Silence allows us to experience this interconnectedness directly, without the filters of the ego. In this space, we see that our actions, thoughts, and feelings are not isolated, but ripple through the fabric of existence, touching everything and everyone. Silence also helps us confront the deeper illusions we hold about ourselves. The ego creates stories about who we are, stories that are often rooted in fear, insecurity, and desire. These stories shape our self-image and influence the way we interact with the world. But silence reveals a deeper truth. When we stop clinging to these stories, we begin to see who we truly are, beyond the labels and judgments we have attached to ourselves. Silence strips away the false identities we have created, allowing us to connect with our true, unconditioned self. In this space of truth, we find peace, acceptance, and freedom from the limitations of the ego. The power of silence lies not in its ability to make everything stop, but in its capacity to reveal the truth beneath the surface. In the stillness, we are no longer distracted by the external world or the constant chatter of the mind. We are free to observe the world as it truly is, without the illusions that cloud our perception. Silence shows us that much of what we believe to be true is simply a projection of the mind, and that true understanding comes when we step outside of these mental constructs and simply be. In this space, we find clarity, and in that clarity, we find the answers we have been seeking. In Buddhism, the concept of right view is central to the path of awakening. Right view is about seeing the world as it truly is, without the distortions of ignorance, attachment, and delusion. Silence helps us to cultivate right view by allowing us to step back from our habitual ways of thinking and perceiving. When we sit in silence, we begin to see things more clearly, free from the distortions of the ego and the distractions of the world. Silence becomes the lens through which we can view reality without distortion, helping us to align ourselves with the truth. The practice of silence also helps us to break through the illusion of control. We live in a world that constantly pushes us to exert control over our environment, our circumstances, and even our emotions. We believe that if we can control everything, we will find peace and happiness, but silence reveals the truth. Control is an illusion. When we sit quietly and let go of the need to control, we begin to realize that peace comes not from exerting control, but from accepting what is. Silence teaches us to be present with life as it is, without the need to manipulate or change anything. In this acceptance, we find peace and clarity, free from the pressure of trying to control the uncontrollable. When we engage with silence on a deeper level, we begin to understand that the noise of daily life is not just external, it is also internal. The mind is constantly moving, creating thoughts, judgments, and narratives that pull us in different directions. But silence allows us to break free from this mental noise. It shows us that we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness that observes them. As we sit in silence, we begin to detach from the constant stream of thoughts and see them for what they are, temporary, fleeting, and not worthy of our attachment. In this space of detachment, we find the clarity to see things as they truly are, without the distortion of the mind. Breaking through the noise is not about eliminating distractions or silencing the mind entirely. It is about creating the space to step back from the noise and observe it without attachment. It is about allowing silence to guide us to the deeper truths that are always present, hidden beneath the surface noise of our thoughts, emotions, and external distractions. In this space, we find answers that we could not access while caught in the chaos. Silence reveals the simplicity and beauty of life, helping us to see the world without the illusions that usually cloud our perception. It is in this clarity that we find peace, understanding, and the freedom to live fully in the present moment. As we continue to delve into the power of silence, it becomes clear that the path to deeper understanding and awakening is not always paved with spoken words, teachings, or doctrines. Silence, rather than being an absence, holds the keys to enlightenment that cannot always be articulated. In the stillness, the truth about the nature of all things begins to reveal itself, not through intellectual grasping or the accumulation of knowledge, but through an internal experience of direct awareness. Enlightenment, in this sense, does not come from external sources, but from the quiet spaces within us where the mind can rest and clarity can emerge. The teachings of the Buddha, while rich in wisdom and insight, are not meant to be memorized or repeated like a set of rules. Instead, they invite us to see the world with new eyes, to peel back the layers of delusion, and to encounter reality as it is, beyond the constructs of thought, language, and belief. While words can point us in the right direction, the true path to enlightenment is found in the quiet moments between those words, where the mind is at ease and the heart is open. Silence teaches us that the essence of wisdom is not something to be grasped, but something to be experienced in the stillness of being. In the Buddhist tradition, much of the teaching is conveyed through silence, whether in meditation, in the presence of a teacher, or in the unspoken moments between teacher and student. Silence offers the space for direct experience, allowing the mind to let go of its constant need for explanation, categorization, and control. In this stillness, we are able to connect with something much deeper than the surface-level understanding provided by language. The direct experience of the present moment, the simplicity of breathing, feeling, and being, is the true teaching. It is in this silence that we begin to touch the essence of enlightenment, which is not a distant goal to be achieved, but a realization to be experienced in the now. The path to enlightenment is often seen as a gradual unfolding, and silence is the fertile ground in which this transformation takes place. When we quiet the mind, we make space for a deeper awareness of ourselves and the world. The constant noise of thoughts, judgments, and expectations prevents us from seeing things clearly. But when we sit in silence, the distractions fade, and we begin to perceive the world as it truly is, without the filters of the ego, without the bias of the past, and without the projections of the future. In this clarity, the nature of all things reveals itself, not as concepts to be understood, but as realities to be lived and experienced. Silence also teaches us to let go of our attachment to concepts. In our everyday lives, we rely heavily on words and ideas to define our understanding of the world. We label things, categorize them, and seek explanations for everything we encounter. But true enlightenment cannot be found in intellectualization. It is found when we let go of the need to define, control, or understand everything. Silence teaches us this surrender. When we stop trying to grasp at every fleeting thought and allow ourselves to be fully present, we experience life directly, without the need for labels or interpretations. This direct experience, free from conceptual thinking, is where true wisdom arises. The path to enlightenment through silence is not an easy one. It requires a willingness to sit with discomfort, to face the parts of ourselves that we often avoid, and to confront the limitations of our own thinking. In the stillness, we are confronted with our desires, fears, and attachments. Silence strips away the distractions that prevent us from seeing these parts of ourselves clearly. But it also provides the space for transformation. As we sit quietly, we begin to let go of these attachments, not by force, but by simply observing them and allowing them to fade. Silence teaches us that we do not need to hold on to anything in order to find peace. We are already whole, already enlightened in our essence, and it is only the noise of the mind that obscures this truth. One of the most powerful aspects of silence on the path to enlightenment is its ability to reveal the impermanent nature of all things. Our minds are constantly grasping at experiences, trying to hold on to moments of happiness or pleasure, and avoiding moments of discomfort or pain. But silence helps us to see that nothing lasts. The joy of a beautiful moment, the sadness of a loss, the excitement of a new experience, all of these things are temporary. Silence reveals that this impermanence is not something to fear, but something to embrace. It shows us that true peace does not come from clinging to fleeting moments, but from accepting the ever-changing flow of life. In silence, we learn to live with what is, without needing to control or resist it. Enlightenment, in the Buddhist tradition, is not a state to be reached, but a realization of the true nature of reality. This realization cannot be found through external teachings alone. It arises in the quiet spaces where the mind can rest and simply be. In this stillness, we begin to see that all of our striving, all of our efforts to achieve or understand, are ultimately distractions from the truth that is always present. The more we practice silence, the more we come to understand that enlightenment is not a distant goal to be attained, but a present reality to be recognized. It is in the silence that we awaken to the truth of our interconnectedness, our impermanence, and our intrinsic nature as beings of peace and awareness. Silence also opens the door to compassion, which is an essential aspect of enlightenment. When we are caught up in the noise of our thoughts, we become disconnected from others. We see ourselves as separate, distinct, and apart from the world. But silence helps us to recognize the interconnectedness of all beings. In the quiet, we see that the suffering of others is not separate from our own. It is in this realization that compassion arises, not as something we try to do, but as a natural expression of our deep connection to all of life. Silence allows us to listen to the needs of others, not with our minds or judgments, but with our hearts. In this deep listening, we are moved to act with kindness and understanding, recognizing that we are all on this path together. The true power of silence on the path to enlightenment lies in its ability to shift our perception of the world. When we quiet the mind, we no longer see the world through the lens of personal desire or fear. We begin to see things as they are, without the filters of our ego. This shift in perception is not intellectual or theoretical. It is a direct experience. Silence allows us to step outside of our habitual ways of thinking and into a state of pure awareness. In this awareness, we begin to see the interconnectedness of all things, the impermanence of life, and the profound peace that underlies the surface of our experiences. As we continue to practice silence, we deepen our understanding of what it means to live an enlightened life. Enlightenment is not an escape from the world, but a deeper engagement with it. It is a recognition that everything we experience is an opportunity to learn, grow, and awaken. Silence teaches us that we are not separate from the world, but a part of the flow of life. In the stillness, we learn to live with greater presence, compassion, and clarity. We no longer chase after fleeting pleasures or avoid pain. We accept life as it is, and in doing so, we find the peace and freedom that comes from letting go of the need to control, understand, or possess. Ultimately, silence is not just a tool for personal peace or self-understanding. It is the gateway to realizing the true nature of all things. Through silence, we come to recognize that we are already enlightened, already at peace, and already whole. The path to enlightenment is not about seeking something outside of ourselves, but about discovering what has always been within us. Silence removes the layers of illusion that have kept us from seeing this truth, and in that truth we find freedom, compassion, and an unshakable peace. As we continue to explore the depths of silence, we uncover something even more profound: the connection it offers us to universal truths. Silence is not just an absence of sound, it is a gateway, a bridge that links us to the very essence of existence. When we sit in stillness, we begin to listen, not just to the quiet of the room, but to the underlying truths that shape the universe itself. This void is not emptiness, but a space of pure potential, a place where all things arise and return. It is in this space, in the silence of the void, that we find answers to the deepest questions of existence. Who are we? What is our place in the universe? How do we understand the nature of life itself? In the stillness, we are able to tune into a frequency of truth that is beyond the limitations of the mind. The mind, with all its noise and constant chatter, can only see a fraction of reality. It is limited by perceptions, beliefs, and personal experiences. Silence, however, removes these barriers, allowing us to experience the world without distortion. As we listen to the void, we come to understand that the universe is not a collection of separate, isolated parts, but a vast, interconnected whole. Everything is connected, everything is in flux, and everything has its place in the grand tapestry of existence. Silence, in this sense, serves as a profound teacher, revealing the truths that are hidden beneath the surface. These truths are not intellectual or conceptual, they are experiential. They arise in the quiet spaces between thoughts, in the pauses between breaths, and in the moments of stillness when we are simply present with what is. The more we engage with silence, the more we become attuned to the rhythms and patterns that govern existence. These rhythms are not random. They are the deep laws of the universe, the fundamental forces that shape everything from the movement of the stars to the flow of our own thoughts. When we listen to the void, we begin to see that there is no separation between ourselves and the universe. The mind may tell us that we are individuals, isolated and separate from everything around us, but silence reveals the interconnectedness of all things. We are not separate from the earth, from other people, or from the natural world. In the silence, we begin to feel this interconnectedness on a deep, visceral level. It is as if the boundaries between ourselves and the universe begin to dissolve. and we come to understand that we are part of something much larger, something that transcends our individual experience. The void is not a place of nothingness, it is a place of pure potential. It is the space where all things emerge and return, where life and death, creation and destruction are part of a continuous cycle. When we listen to the void, we hear the whispers of this eternal process. We begin to understand that everything in existence is in a constant state of flux, and that this flux is not chaotic or random, but part of a larger, harmonious order. In silence, we are able to see this order with clarity, and in doing so, we find peace. We realize that we are part of this cycle, that our lives are not separate from the natural world, but intricately woven into its fabric. As we deepen our connection to the void through silence, we also begin to understand that the answers we seek are not found in external sources, but within ourselves. The mind is often searching for answers outside, in books, teachings, or experiences. But silence teaches us that the universe has always been speaking to us, and its wisdom resides within us, in the depths of our being. The silence we encounter when we stop and listen is not merely an absence of sound, it is the presence of all that is. In this stillness, we encounter the deepest truths of existence, truths that cannot be captured by words or intellectual understanding, but must be felt and experienced. In listening to the void, we are also confronted with the reality of impermanence. The void is a space of constant change, where nothing remains the same for long. Everything, from our thoughts to the stars in the sky, is in a state of continuous transformation. In the silence, we come to understand that impermanence is not something to fear, but something to embrace. We begin to see that change is a natural part of life, and that it is through change that growth and evolution occur. The silence allows us to accept this truth deeply, without resistance, and in this acceptance, we find peace. We understand that nothing in life is permanent, but that this transience is what makes life precious. The experience of listening to the void also helps us to cultivate a sense of humility. In a world that often emphasizes individual achievement and success, the void reminds us that we are part of a much larger, ongoing process. Our lives, though significant, are but brief moments in the vast expanse of time. In the silence, we realize that we are not the center of the universe. The universe does not revolve around us, nor are we separate from it. We are simply a part of the great unfolding, a thread in the vast tapestry of existence. This realization is humbling, but it also brings with it a sense of liberation. We are free from the need to control or dominate, free from the anxiety of needing to be special or important. In silence, we see that our true value comes not from what we achieve or possess, but from our simple presence within the vastness of the universe. Silence helps us to see beyond the superficial layers of existence. It strips away the distractions, the illusions, and the labels that we often place on ourselves and others. When we listen to the void, we hear the deeper truths that are hidden beneath the surface of everyday life. We begin to see that the world is not as solid and fixed as it appears, but a fluid, ever-changing reality. This realization is both freeing and grounding. It helps us to let go of our attachments to things that are temporary and to align ourselves with the deeper flow of existence. In silence, we realize that we are part of this flow and that our purpose is not to control or resist, but to move with it, to embrace the natural rhythms of life. The teachings of silence, when understood through the lens of the void, also reveal the illusion of separation. The void is not empty. It is full of potential, full of interconnectedness. When we sit in silence and listen deeply, we begin to sense this interconnectedness. We realize that everything in the universe is related, that every action, every thought, every word creates a ripple that affects everything else. The silence helps us to feel this connection, to understand that we are not isolated beings, but part of a larger, interconnected whole. In this realization, we find a deep sense of peace, for we understand that we are not alone in the universe. We are part of the same energy, the same flow, the same essence that connects all things. As we continue to sit in silence, listening to the void, we learn to accept the unknown. The void is a space of mystery, where answers do not always come immediately, and where the future is not certain. But it is in this space of uncertainty that we find the greatest wisdom. Silence helps us to let go of the need to know everything, to control every outcome. It teaches us to be comfortable with the unknown, to trust that the universe is unfolding as it should. When we stop trying to force answers or control our circumstances, we open ourselves up to the wisdom of the void. We learn to live with faith, knowing that everything is connected, that everything is part of the greater flow, and that in time the answers will come. The void, as expressed through silence, is also a space of deep compassion. In the silence, we are able to hear the suffering of others more clearly. We are no longer distracted by our own judgments, fears, and desires. We are able to listen to the world with an open heart, to feel the pain and joy of others without the need to fix or change it. This compassion arises naturally from the understanding that we are all part of the same interconnected reality. In the silence, we realize that the suffering of others is not separate from our own, and that true healing comes from recognizing this shared experience and responding with kindness and understanding. Listening to the void also leads us to the realization of the impermanence of our own lives. In the vast expanse of the universe, our individual lives are but brief moments. The silence helps us to see this truth without fear. Instead of feeling insignificant, we come to understand that our lives are precious precisely because they are temporary. Silence teaches us to embrace our impermanence, to live fully in the present moment, and to let go of the need to control or hold on to what is fleeting. In doing so, we find a sense of freedom and peace that transcends the temporary nature of our existence. The void does not speak to us in the way that we expect. It does not provide immediate answers or clear solutions. Instead, it invites us to stop, to listen, and to experience life as it truly is. In the stillness, we are connected to a deeper truth, one that cannot be articulated but can only be felt. The void is not empty. It is full of life, full of wisdom, and full of connection. By listening to the silence of the void, we connect to the deepest truths of existence and our place within it. This connection is not based on intellectual understanding, but on the direct experience of being. It is in this experience, in the silence of the void, that we find the answers we have been seeking all along. As we explore the profound role silence plays in connecting us to universal truths and understanding, we begin to see another remarkable gift it offers: the healing power of quiet reflection. Just as the body needs rest and nourishment to heal from physical wounds, the mind too requires moments of stillness to recover from the stresses, anxieties, and emotional wounds it endures. Silence, in its purest form, offers us a medicine for the overactive mind, allowing us to heal and restore balance. It provides us with a space where we can reconnect with ourselves, process our emotions, and regain the clarity that is often lost in the noise of daily life. The mind, in its constant activity, can be a source of immense stress. Thoughts race from one to the next, emotions swirl in response to events, and we find ourselves caught up in a never-ending cycle of internal noise. This constant mental chatter can feel overwhelming and draining, often leaving us unable to think clearly or make decisions from a place of calm. It is in these moments, when the mind feels like it is drowning in noise, that silence becomes a powerful tool for healing. By allowing ourselves to step into silence, we create the space for the mind to rest, reset, and restore itself. It is in this stillness that the overactive mind begins to find its balance. When we sit in silence, we give ourselves permission to pause, to stop the endless movement of thoughts and reactions. The first moments of silence may feel uncomfortable, as the mind is accustomed to constant activity. But as we persist, we begin to notice a subtle shift, a quieting of the inner noise. It is like a busy street suddenly clearing, the rush of cars fading into the background. In this space, we are able to breathe more deeply, to think more clearly, and to find a sense of peace that was previously clouded by the constant flow of thoughts. Silence, in this sense, acts as a restorative process, allowing the mind to return to its natural state of calm. One of the key aspects of silence as medicine is its ability to give us the opportunity to reflect. In our everyday lives, we rarely take the time to reflect on our thoughts, emotions, and experiences. We are too busy reacting, moving from one task to the next. Silence offers us the space to reflect deeply on our lives, to understand our feelings, and to process past events. In these moments of quiet reflection, we can begin to make sense of our experiences and heal from emotional wounds that may have been buried under layers of distraction. The act of simply sitting in silence and allowing ourselves to reflect without judgment can be incredibly healing, as it provides clarity and perspective on situations that once felt overwhelming. Silence helps us confront the emotional wounds that often lie hidden beneath the surface of our busy minds. It is easy to push aside feelings of sadness, anger, or fear when we are constantly distracted by the noise of the world. But in the quiet, these emotions come to the surface, allowing us to process them in a healthy, constructive way. Silence does not force us to confront these feelings. It simply provides a safe space for them to arise naturally. When we sit in silence, we allow ourselves to feel the emotions we may have been avoiding, without the need to rush past them or suppress them. This process of acknowledging and sitting with our emotions in silence is a powerful form of healing. It allows us to release what we have been holding on to and to move forward with a lighter heart. The healing power of silence also comes from its ability to restore clarity. In a world filled with constant noise and distractions, it is easy to become confused or uncertain. We may feel overwhelmed by the many demands on our time and energy, unsure of what path to take or what decision to make. In these moments, silence offers us the clarity we need. By stepping away from the noise and allowing ourselves to be still, we create the mental space needed to gain perspective. The answers that once seemed unclear become more apparent as the mind settles into the quiet. In silence, we learn to trust our intuition and inner wisdom, and we find the clarity to make decisions that are aligned with our true selves. This clarity is not about rushing to find solutions, but about allowing them to emerge naturally in the stillness. Often, the answers we seek are already within us, but they are obscured by the noise and distractions of daily life. Silence helps us to peel away the layers of mental clutter and reveal the deeper truths that have always been present. These truths are not complicated or difficult to understand. They are simple and direct, waiting for us to notice them. By sitting in silence, we allow ourselves the space to listen to these truths, and in doing so, we experience a deep sense of peace and understanding. The practice of silence also helps us to develop greater self-awareness. The mind is constantly filled with judgments, opinions, and assumptions about ourselves and the world. These thoughts can create a distorted view of who we are and what we are capable of. Silence provides the space to step back from these mental patterns and to see ourselves more clearly. When we sit in stillness, we are not defined by our thoughts or judgments. We are simply present, experiencing ourselves as we truly are. This self-awareness allows us to heal from past wounds, release limiting beliefs, and embrace our true potential. Silence can also be a healing tool for the body. The mind and body are deeply connected, and when the mind is agitated, the body often follows suit. Stress, anxiety, and emotional tension can manifest in physical symptoms such as headaches, muscle tension, and fatigue. By sitting in silence and calming the mind, we give the body the opportunity to relax and heal. In these moments of stillness, the body can release accumulated tension and restore its natural balance. Silence, in this sense, serves as a form of self-care, helping us to nurture both the mind and the body. In addition to its ability to heal the individual, silence can also heal our relationships with others. In our busy, fast-paced world, we often find ourselves disconnected from those around us, caught up in the noise of our own lives. Silence allows us to slow down and truly listen to others. When we are silent, we create the space for others to speak freely, without interruption or judgment. This deep listening fosters understanding, empathy, and compassion. By offering our presence in silence, we give others the gift of being heard, and in doing so, we build stronger, more meaningful connections. Silence also fosters patience. In a world that values speed and efficiency, silence teaches us to slow down and be patient with ourselves and others. When we sit in silence, we learn to let go of the need for immediate answers or results. We learn that healing, growth, and understanding take time, and that there is no need to rush the process. Silence encourages us to be present with the unfolding of life, to trust in the timing of things, and to embrace the journey rather than focusing solely on the destination. In this way, silence becomes a tool for cultivating patience, allowing us to find peace in the midst of uncertainty. Through silence, we also learn to cultivate mindfulness, the practice of being fully present in each moment. In our fast-paced world, we often rush through life without fully experiencing it. We are constantly planning, thinking, and doing, but we rarely take the time to simply be. Silence teaches us to pause and be fully present with what is happening around us and within us. By cultivating mindfulness in silence, we develop a deeper connection to ourselves and to the world around us. We begin to appreciate the simple joys of life and find beauty in the present moment. This mindfulness helps us to heal by bringing our awareness to the here and now, where all healing truly takes place. As we continue to sit in silence, we begin to recognize its transformative power. It is not a passive experience, but an active process of healing and self-discovery. Silence is not merely a tool for relaxation, but a powerful means of connecting with our inner wisdom, restoring clarity, and healing emotional wounds. It is a practice that requires patience, presence, and openness, but the rewards are immeasurable. Through silence, we discover the deep well of peace and healing that exists within us, and we begin to live more fully, more authentically, and more in tune with the world around us. As we continue to explore the healing and transformative power of silence, we begin to realize its deep connection with the heart. Silence, in its purest form, not only calms the mind, but opens the heart, allowing us to hear the truths we may have long buried. It is easy to be overwhelmed by the constant noise in our lives, both external and internal, which drowns out the subtle whispers of our emotions. Yet, in the quiet, something remarkable happens. The heart speaks clearly, without interference, and we are able to hear it in ways that were once impossible. The mind may race with thoughts and judgments, but in silence, the heart is free to express its truth, bringing clarity, understanding, and peace. The relationship between silence and emotional clarity is profound. Often, our emotions are clouded by the constant chatter of our thoughts. We analyze, we judge, we try to make sense of our feelings, but in doing so, we often create more confusion. The mind, in its desire to understand, can interfere with the natural flow of our emotions, causing us to suppress, deny, or distort what we truly feel. Silence, however, provides a space where emotions can arise freely, unfiltered by mental noise. When we quiet the mind, we create the conditions for the heart to speak with clarity and honesty, revealing what has been hidden beneath the surface. In moments of silence, we learn to listen to the deeper currents of our emotional landscape. Our hearts are not always loud or demanding. They speak in gentle whispers, often drowned out by the noise of everyday life. But when we sit in stillness, we begin to hear these quiet voices more clearly. The heart speaks not through words, but through feelings, an intuitive knowing that goes beyond thought. Silence allows us to connect with this deeper wisdom, helping us to understand what we truly feel, what we truly need, and what our deepest desires are. In this way, silence becomes a path to emotional clarity, helping us to peel away the layers of confusion and distraction that keep us from seeing the truth of our hearts. This process of quieting the mind and opening the heart is not always easy. The mind is often filled with judgments, fears, and insecurities that can distort our emotional responses. When we sit in silence, we may be confronted with emotions that we have been avoiding or repressing. At first, this can feel uncomfortable, as we may be faced with pain, sorrow, or anger that we have not fully processed. But silence gives us the space to sit with these emotions without judgment or resistance. It teaches us that our feelings are not something to fear, but something to understand. By embracing the silence, we allow ourselves to feel deeply, to experience our emotions fully, and to release what no longer serves us. As we learn to quiet the mind, we also begin to recognize that the heart is not bound by the limitations of thought. The mind often filters our emotions through past experiences, expectations, and fears, causing us to misinterpret or misunderstand what we truly feel. Silence, however, allows us to let go of these filters and to experience our emotions in their purest form. When the mind is still, we can feel the fullness of our hearts, our love, our compassion, our grief, and our joy, without the interference of judgment or analysis. In this space, we are free to connect with our emotions on a deeper level, without the need to control or define them. In the quiet, we also find that the heart can guide us with wisdom and compassion. Often, our minds are filled with the noise of self-doubt, criticism, and fear, making it difficult to hear the gentle wisdom of the heart. But when we sit in stillness, the heart's voice becomes clearer, offering us insight and guidance that we may have overlooked in the rush of daily life. The heart speaks with a quiet, steady confidence, reminding us of what truly matters, guiding us toward compassion, forgiveness, and understanding. Silence, in this way, helps us to reconnect with the heart's natural wisdom, allowing us to make decisions from a place of love rather than fear or insecurity. One of the most powerful aspects of silence and the heart is the deep emotional release that it can bring. The mind often holds on to old stories, traumas, and wounds, replaying them over and over in an attempt to understand or heal. But silence allows us to release these old patterns. When we stop the mental chatter, we give the emotions that have been locked inside the space to surface. In these moments of quiet, we can finally process and release the pain, fear, or sadness that we have been holding on to. This release is not a forceful act. It is a natural unfolding that happens when we allow ourselves to sit with our emotions without resistance. In this way, silence becomes a form of emotional healing, offering us the opportunity to let go of what no longer serves us and to move forward with a lighter heart. Silence also helps us cultivate emotional resilience. Life is filled with challenges, and we all face moments of sorrow, disappointment, and frustration. The mind, when overwhelmed by these emotions, can create additional suffering by clinging to the pain or resisting it. But silence teaches us that emotions, like everything else, are temporary. When we sit in stillness, we allow ourselves to feel what we feel without holding on to it. We recognize that emotions are not permanent states, but transient experiences that will pass in time. Silence teaches us to be present with our emotions, to accept them fully, and to trust that, just as they arise, they will also fade. This acceptance of the impermanence of emotions builds resilience, helping us to navigate life's challenges with grace and peace. The connection between silence and the heart also deepens our ability to love, not only ourselves, but others. In the noise of daily life, we often become disconnected from our true capacity for compassion and empathy. The heart, however, is always open and willing to love, and silence allows us to access this love more fully. When we quiet the mind, we stop focusing on our own worries and judgments, and we are able to see others with fresh eyes, without the layers of comparison, expectation, or criticism. In silence, we are reminded of our shared humanity and our interconnectedness with all beings. This awareness fosters compassion, helping us to love more freely and authentically. By quieting the mind, we make space for the heart to love without condition, to forgive without hesitation, and to offer kindness without reservation. Through silence, we also begin to realize that the heart is not confined to the personal or individual. The mind often separates us from others, reinforcing the illusion of self versus other. But when we sit in silence, we begin to experience the truth of our interconnectedness. The heart, in its quiet wisdom, knows that we are all part of a greater whole. In the stillness, we feel the shared emotions, struggles, and joys of all beings, and this recognition expands our capacity for love and empathy. Silence reveals that love is not limited to our close relationships, but extends to all beings, all things. It helps us move beyond the boundaries of ego and into a state of universal compassion, where the heart can love not only ourselves, but everyone we encounter. In this way, silence becomes a profound tool for emotional healing and growth. It opens the door to emotional clarity, allowing us to see ourselves and others without distortion. It helps us process and release old wounds, cultivate resilience, and deepen our capacity for love and compassion. By quieting the mind, we allow the heart to speak its truth, guiding us to greater peace, understanding, and connection with ourselves and the world around us. Silence, in its simple yet powerful way, clears the space for the heart to flourish, enabling us to live with authenticity, love, and emotional freedom. As we have explored the profound ability of silence to clear our minds, heal emotional wounds, and open our hearts, we now come to one of the most significant gifts silence offers: the ability to answer the age-old question, "Who am I?" In the hustle and bustle of daily life, it's easy to forget that the most important answer to this question isn't found in external achievements or intellectual pursuits. The answer lies in the present moment, in the deep silence of now. When we quiet the noise and strip away all the distractions, we come face to face with the truth of who we are, and in that truth, we find not only our identity, but a deeper understanding of our place in the universe. The constant busyness of the world can make it seem as though we are defined by what we do, by the roles we play, or by how others perceive us. We chase after recognition, success, and approval, thinking that these will reveal our worth. But the more we chase these things, the further we drift from the truth of who we really are. In the stillness of the present moment, all of these external markers begin to fade. Silence does not offer us the answers of the mind or the superficial labels we place on ourselves. Instead, it invites us to experience our true essence without the noise of expectation, judgment, or desire. It is here, in this deep silence, that we encounter our authentic self, unencumbered by past experiences or future worries, simply being. The present moment holds within it the full potential for self-realization. When we stop looking to the past for answers, when we stop projecting ourselves into the future, we come to the realization that everything we seek is already here, in this very moment. Silence reveals that we are not defined by our past mistakes, nor by the fears of what may come. We are simply present. In that present, we are whole, complete, and free. Silence allows us to step outside of the narrative we have built about ourselves, one filled with the stories of who we think we should be, and connect with the truth of who we truly are. In the silence of now, there is no need to strive. The quest for self-identity is often wrapped in effort, in a desire to prove or become something. But silence shows us that self-awareness is not a goal to be achieved. It is a state to be experienced. We are not becoming something. We are simply being. When we stop fighting against the flow of life and rest in the stillness of the present, we realize that our true nature is always with us. We are not incomplete or lacking. We are already whole, simply waiting to be recognized. The answer to "Who am I?" is not something that can be grasped with the intellect. The mind, in its constant chatter, can never fully capture the essence of who we are. It can only offer labels, definitions, and stories. But silence cuts through these illusions, bringing us into direct contact with the truth of our being. In silence, we no longer need to identify with the roles we play or the labels society gives us. We are not our job, our relationships, or our achievements. We are not our thoughts or emotions. Silence allows us to witness all of these things, but not to become attached to them. When we step into the present moment and rest in stillness, we discover that our true identity is not found in any of these external things. It is simply found in being here, now, without the need for explanation or justification. The present moment, found in the silence of now, reveals to us the interconnectedness of all things. The question, "Who am I?" often carries an implicit sense of separation. We see ourselves as isolated individuals, separate from the world and from others. But silence shows us that this sense of separation is an illusion. In the stillness of the present moment, we feel the truth that we are not separate from the world around us. We are part of the same flow, the same rhythm, the same energy. The more we listen in silence, the more we come to understand that our identity is not confined to the boundaries of the body or the ego. We are part of a greater whole, connected to every living being, every tree, every star. Silence reveals the vast interconnectedness of all life, and in that recognition, we find peace and a deeper sense of belonging. This deep realization does not come through words or thought. It comes from direct experience. Silence, in its purest form, invites us to experience life beyond the confines of the thinking mind. The mind can only conceptualize and categorize, but it cannot grasp the depth of reality. It is in the silence of now, in the present moment, that we encounter the fullness of life as it is, without the filters of judgment, expectation, or fear. This direct experience is where true self-realization occurs. It is not something we can describe or explain. It is something we can only feel. In the quiet, we recognize that we are not the sum of our past, nor the anticipation of our future. We are the essence of the present moment, ever-changing, yet constant, always present, yet always unfolding. In the silence of now, we also confront the illusion of control. Our minds are constantly trying to manipulate the world around us, to hold on to the past, to control the future, to make things happen according to our desires. But the present moment cannot be controlled. It simply is. Silence helps us to accept the inherent uncertainty and unpredictability of life. When we stop trying to control every aspect of our existence and simply rest in the now, we realize that life unfolds on its own, and we are part of that unfolding. We no longer need to fear the unknown, because we recognize that it is not something to be controlled or avoided, but something to be embraced with openness and trust. The realization of who we are is not a sudden, dramatic event, but a gradual unfolding, a soft awakening to the truth that has always been within us. Silence helps us to let go of the layers of self-doubt, fear, and ego that prevent us from seeing this truth clearly. It allows us to recognize that we are already whole, already complete. The journey of self-discovery is not about becoming something new, but about uncovering what has always been there, our true essence, free from the distortions of the mind. Silence is the mirror that reflects this essence, allowing us to see ourselves clearly for the first time, not as we wish to be or as we fear we are, but as we truly are. The present moment, when embraced in silence, also allows us to access the wisdom that lies within us. The question of "Who am I?" is often tied to the search for purpose, for meaning, for direction. We look outside of ourselves for answers, thinking that we need to achieve something or become someone in order to find fulfillment. But silence teaches us that all the wisdom we need is already within us. The present moment, free from distractions and mental noise, reveals the wisdom of the heart. It tells us that our purpose is not something we need to search for, but something that is revealed to us when we are still enough to listen. In silence, we hear the quiet guidance of our true nature, helping us to navigate life with clarity and peace. As we become more familiar with the